As Lenin explained, that imperialism is the highest stage of capitalism, that complete merger of the banks, the largest industries and corporations, defended by a monstrous military machine. Imperialism needs war because if capitalism can't constantly expand, it literally suffocates. It's driven to capture new markets, and that drive is ruthless. Any country breaking away from imperialist exploitation threatens the very existence and the future of imperialism. So they hate every one of the controls in China, and they're always trying to gain the upper hand and force new trade agreements. And this is really what the pivot to Asia is all about: how to surround and threaten China and impose and force new concessions, and to do so militarily. And it's interesting, they have revived and asserted this term as they bring their warships and their battleships into the area, that these are just freedom of navigation operations. Now, you can imagine how that resonates in China and what they know that the U.S. is planning to do because they've lived it before. Now, as the U.S. Navy sees it, they said, well, China has a rather unique interpretation of international law. They feel that there should be no freedom of navigation for warships and military airplanes and overflight. That there should only be freedom of navigation for commercial ships of every country. Imagine that. I mean, and this is true. Again and again, China's drawn the distinction between commercial and military vessels. The Chinese Foreign Ministry stated that no country except the United States believes in military vessels sailing wherever they want. And it isn't just in China. The sail into times past the harbors in Nicaragua and Venezuela and impose in Cuba and the Philippines to take the agreements, the treaties, the concessions that they want.
Welcome to a great episode. I feel like it's going to be great of RBN Live Tuesdays. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, man?
What's poppin', my friends, my family? It's good to be here. Good to be back. RBN Live Tuesday. Here with my boy CJ. That was a good intro clip. They've been ringing the bells to go to war with China extremely aggressively over the last few days. I want to insert this clip. I saw this earlier. I want to cover it, so I think this now is a good time to cover it now. There was flagged by Caitlin Johnstone. There's one of many examples where if you turn on MSNBC, and I've been seeing it a ton. I said it in a live stream yesterday. I used to do. I would look at an anti-China segment every once in a while on MSNBC. Every few days, every 3-4 days, give or take. They had Ali Veshi. It would be either Ali Veshi or Joe Scarborough who will lead the way on those segments. Now, everybody, all hands on deck. The only people that not doing it like that aggressively are people like Joanne Reed, like the Chris Hayes, the people they want to present as the young progressive voices. Everyone else is doing it in an unbelievably aggressive way because they see China as a rising threat, and there can't be any opposing alternative to capitalism shown to the world.
It's funny you have this clip because this and the clip I played were the two I was debating to be the intro. So this is great that you're inserting this here, but go ahead.
Base Caitlin Johnstone. Let's play the video and then we can react to it.
Make the basic case for why Americans not only should care about what happens in Taiwan, but should be willing to spill American blood and treasure to defend Taiwan.
Nobody wants that. I think the deterrence is key here. We travel to Japan, South Korea. We are in Guam. We're meeting with our allies, our partners here, if you will. They don't have a NATO in the Pacific, but they do have partners. We want to make sure that they are ready and supportive of the United States and Taiwan. The case for Taiwan, that's a very good question. About 50% of international trade goes through the international straits, but I think more importantly, Chuck, is that the TSMC manufactures 90% of the advanced global supply of advanced semiconductor chips. If China invades and either owns or breaks this, we're in a world of hurt, globally.
Congressman, it almost sounds like the case that would be made in the 60s, 70s, and 80s of why America was spending so much money and military resources in the Middle East. Oil was so important for the economy. Is this sort of the 21st century version of that?
I personally, I think it's about democracy.
Dude, what is going on, CJ? And I don't think
it was like he was telling the truth for a minute. And then it was like, oh, no, this is democracy. I forgot.
Dude, this is the second time we told Chuck Todd accidentally destroying a neocon. You remember Anthony Blinken?
Yeah.
In that interview where
Chuck
Todd
the question.
He didn't even want to destroy him, but he did because the United States foreign policy position on Taiwan, China's so ridiculous. So I don't know if you guys noticed here, but Chuck Todd destroyed this guy because he brings up all these economic reasons, semiconductors. This is why it's important to fight for Taiwan. And Chuck Todd was like, wait, so this sounds like the Iraq War and fighting for oil. Why shouldn't we take it like that? He's like, oh shit, actually, I thought it was a comfortable interview. I thought I was at home. No, actually, freedom, democracy.
He's like, I thought I was talking to Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi. Sorry.
He was saying the quiet part way too out loud.
Do you mind playing like the last 30 seconds? I want people to zero in on when he mentions the semiconductor part. In the percentage, because this is what they're zeroing in on for the future. This is what they're afraid of. If they corner this, anyway, play that last 30 seconds, if you will, please.
If China invades and either owns or breaks this, we're in a world of hurt, globally.
Congressman, it almost sounds like the case that would be made in the 60s, 70s, and 80s of why America was spending so much money and military resources in the Middle East. Oil was so important for the economy. Is this sort of the 21st century version of that?
I personally, I think it's about democracy and freedom.
That's the part where we had his brain fried, and he realized like, fuck, I understand what this is really about.
What do they think when these little Freudian slips in media happen? What do they think we're thinking? Do they think does he think he broke the fourth wall in this show that he's putting on? He broke the fourth wall, and now he's trying to put it back up. And the meaning, that'll be like somebody on a TV show turning to the camera and then being himself instead of the actor character, and then trying to come back and be like, sorry, back to my character. And that's what I think of when I think of that or see that.
Remember, guys, and I covered this yesterday. Emmanuel Macron met with Xi Jinping. Then he came back to the West, and he was like, "Man, that man was spitting heat. He was spitting fire, son. Maybe we should have strategic autonomy." Then we start saying strategic autonomy away from the United States. Jeez. That means, hey, I like what Xi is pushing more than the United States. My people about to fry my ass. I was following the United States, and now my people about to fry me. Fuck that shit. We see. I don't really believe him. I don't believe in Macron like that. I just think that's a funny way to put it. We see.
He could be just showing for the people that's protesting in the streets. He could be doing that. So they
and to be clear, guys, I do think that's a possibility. I just think that's a hilarious blowback from the West that Macron even had the balls to say that. Look at this map right here. CJ, I'm just going through some receipts. Feel free to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
As the United States holds its largest ever military exercise in the Philippines, involving over 17,000 forces. A reminder that there are over 259 U.S. bases surrounding China. But tell me more about how China is encircling Taiwan. And if you watch these propaganda outlets, you will see people selling the idea to the boomers, the cowbell left, as RBN and Due Distance call these people now, where they're like, "Oh my God, China's been so aggressive, we have to counter them." How dare a country have the nerve to protect their sovereignty? That's essentially what United States neocons have said. I have this video as well. I don't think I played this whole thing, but this I'll show you guys MSNBC and CNN. You guys see Fox News every single day. I'll show you all the big channels are doing this nonstop every single day. Now, this is about 3-4 days old. So I'm gonna just let's just dive into it. I'm gonna give you a reaction. I just remember seeing this guy. I was like, oh my God, how do they find this psychopath? This guy, watch this guy's performance on the big stage, CNN. He probably been waiting for his entire life.
Last year, when the Kremlin shut down his office. Alex is following China's relations with Russia and Europe closely, and he joins me now from Berlin. Alex, it's great to see you, my friend. A lot to talk about here, a lot of focus
He's
on
following the situation in Russia and China. I mean, he's here to do propaganda. He's here to twist and spin the situation by the
what's
way.
transpiring in the meetings taking place, the high-level meetings in China, we should say. Let's start with French President Macron and his attempt to put more pressure on President Xi to get Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine. Here's what Macron said to Xi that he was counting on him for. He said to bring Russia back to reason and everyone back to the negotiating table on Ukraine. Now, Alex, we have been here before. President Macron tried to play the diplomatic leader here with regards to Vladimir Putin, whether it was on phone calls or in.
And then Macron came back and made a statement that blamed the United States and the EU for not seeking to resolve the Ukraine crisis.
Is he really playing? Do you think he's pretending? Because I mean, he did push through or try to push through the pension reform in order to pay this money out to NATO.
Oh, guys,
so
don't get twisted. Macron is not a good guy.
Or do you think he's serious?
Yeah, don't get twisted. You guys know, based on our coverage, Macron is not a good guy at all. There's only political. He's definitely playing both sides, but he's definitely rebuking the United States more than used to seeing French, German, UK leaders are used to doing. But he's playing both sides at the same time. You don't want to get 100% crucified, but the fact that he's even making statements about saying strategic autonomy is big. But now look at how they present this segment, which is my larger point. They're gonna admit that, CJ. They're gonna admit those quotes and statements that I pulled up for you guys. But let's continue. Okay, get started.
In Moscow in the months leading up to the war. That didn't result in anything promising. The war continued. There are a lot of people who are viewing this meeting with the same sense of pessimism. Are you one of those people?
I'm pretty pessimistic on the ability of President Macron to turn China's support for Russia. And at the same time, I think that China believes that it doesn't have enough leverage to bring Putin to a negotiation table if his tunnel vision is really to destroy Ukraine. And at the same time, China doesn't have interest to stop this war and bring Russia.
China does not have interest to stop this war. The only side that's been trying to mediate peace versus Biden and Boris Johnson in the UK have openly stopped peace negotiations. But according to this guy, China has no interest in ending this war, even though they proposed a peace proposal that Lula endorsed. Meanwhile, Joe Biden in the West is deeply unserious. But I'm gonna let it continue because honestly, this guy shit speak for itself. I'm gonna let it continue.
To the negotiation table and deliver peace on Ukrainian terms.
That's interesting because a lot of people would say that, oh, China and President Xi just has to snap his fingers and Russia will do whatever he is telling him to do. You're saying that he does not have the leverage that many think that he has over Vladimir Putin to end this war. Why?
His leverage is definitely growing. China now accounts for 30% of Russian exports, 40% of Russian imports, including high-tech goods like chips, are coming from China, and all of the trade increasingly is cleared through Chinese yuan, the Chinese currency. But at the same time, China is fully aware that Russia's dependency on Europe was much bigger before the war started. And needless to say, it was even bigger in 2014 when Russia decided to annex Crimea. And then Putin is so fixated on Ukraine, he believes that bringing Ukraine to its knees and dominating in Ukraine is something that will define his legacy.
Dude, the Chinese peace proposal that Putin endorsed called for both sides to respect territorial sovereignty, which means, yes, the Donbass and Eastern Ukraine become independent, which is a win for Russia, but that also means that Zelensky's Ukraine remains. That's what China's peace proposal is saying, but the West is freaking out. They're like, oh my God, we can't have Ukraine lose any land. Not great for the West, but this is how you create peace, because the people in the eastern Ukraine and people in the Donbass, they do not want to be part of Ukraine, which led to the civil war in 2015. So this is the obvious this is the obvious peace proposal that makes sense. Everyone concedes a little bit.
I don't know if it's connected, but this guy is from a thing called Carnegie Center. And you know who else is from an organization starting with Carnegie? Matt Duss. Carnegie Endowment. Carnegie Endowment Center.
Hey, Chad,
yeah, I'm not saying they're the same, but there's a Carnegie Endowment or something like that center, and that's the United States. But if you notice in the name tag on CNN here, it'll have his name director, and it's Carnegie Eurasia something center. So it's like, so maybe it has a slightly different
I gotta
name.
look into that. Oh man, there got to be a connection there, because this guy just getting warmed up. When you listen to Matt Duss is an unhinged neocon. This guy is about as bad as Matt Duss. And if there's a connection there, I definitely need to look into that. What's up, JB? Our brother. I'll take this down just temporarily here. What's popping, my brother? JB Fonz in the house.
What's up, JB?
You're able to join us. What's up, brother?
All right, good to see you guys. You got C Jizzle and N Sizzle.
What?
Good to see you guys.
What was you talking about in your last stream, JB?
Oh, okay. So I had on Zeno April, who is a member of the New Communist Party of the Netherlands, coming on to talk about Dutch elections and what's going on there.
Come on, bro. That's base as hell. You had that on your show. Why? You guys need to subscribe to JB Font channel. You guys see what? This is really good stuff. Go ahead, JB.
Yeah. So we were talking about the actions of the New Communist Party of the Netherlands, or lack thereof, and talking about the new right-wing populist wind that they've had from the BBB, which is a new party. They only have 1% support in 2021, and then now they're over 60% just 2 years later, and they actually had a huge win in their Senate election. So that was something that, thanks, Sean. And so that was a really interesting. And then we kind of juxtapose what's going on here in the United States with our two-party system here versus what's going on with their 16 different parties that they have in the Netherlands. And then I had on Kevin Ronka, who, from Right Brain Studios, talking about the new launch of Phase 4, some exciting things that are happening, some films that are from Cuba that he's bringing onto Right Brain that you can watch, that you will not be able to see in theaters or anywhere else here in the United States. So that is just a taste of some of the new things that he's having. And so I am very excited about that. So yeah, I had two guests on my show today.
Yeah, as Bill Bradley said, if you guys are not subscribed to JB Font, also the Savvy Savs and RBN channel and vice versa, you're missing a very big part of what made the RBN network the RBN network. You guys know, like this is the main, this is the base channel, but RBN is a network. So you guys are missing a lot if you're not subscribed to JB Font's channel. By the way, a lot of great content on there. We're just doing some propaganda report. I always like to dispute the lies of the imperialist machine, who I know you know this as well, because JB, if you guys follow his channel, he's on top of this shit too. The empire lies about China and them fear mongering over Russia. So it's not only MSNBC, JB, it's CNN, everybody. That's why I'm showing you guys different sources. Everyone from Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, MSNBC. Tucker Carlson freaking out every damn night. Like all the big Fox hosts, they do insane China segments every night. And when I see it, I'm thinking it's amusing because I see panic. I see fear in their eyes when they do these segments. JB, feel free to interrupt anytime. I was just doing a presentation here. You guys know how it goes. But I'm gonna let the video continue, and then we got the guy just warming up, by the way. So if he is connected in Matt Duss anyway, I need to look into that because that is extremely interesting. But let's continue.
No matter how much leverage and influence Xi Jinping has over he doesn't really have the power to push him from this cause.
I want to play for our viewers how President Xi responded to these comments from President Macron, specifically with regards to any sort of influence he could have on negotiations between the two countries.
On the matter of Ukraine, China continues to urge for talks to reach a settlement.
Which is
China
true.
is willing to work with France to urge the international community to exercise rational restraint and to avoid worsening the situation, to prevent the situation from spiraling out of control.
He went on to say that China, quote, appeals for the protection of civilians and nuclear weapons must not be used and nuclear war must be avoided. So, Alex, you and I know, and our viewers know, there's only
Now that's completely different than how they summed up China's position, isn't it? There was like China has no interest in ending the war. In fact, they're completely different.
And this is the fear. This is the fear that the United States ruling class and United States capitalists have. The fear clear where China is offering a better option. China's not perfect, so let's not get it wrong. They're not perfect, but they're offering a better option. And just like with the Ukraine, they're offering peace. And then you hear versus how they described it. It's a hard position to be in, and this is why I don't know if people know, but I think it's just polling now under 50% support for the war here. I think it just recently went under
and it's gonna 50%. Get worse, man.
Yeah, and it's gonna get worse. But
like when has a support for a war dip and then immediately spike back up? Like, nah, bro. Once people wake up to it, it's over. It's over. And we just getting started. JB, do you want to chime in?
No, let's keep going. I'm formulating my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right,
let's continue.
One party that's threatening the use of nuclear weapons, and there's only one party in this war that's targeting innocent civilians. So what do you make of President
That is a lie. That is a lie. That should get your fucking YouTube channel pulled based on their standards. There's a famous video. I covered it. I could pull it back up where you had this Ukrainian reporter that was asking Ukraine citizens about Russian armies attacking civilians, and then she was corrected live, and she said, no, it's actually the Ukrainian government that is attacking and assaulting citizens. Now, this is war. I'm sure Russia is guilty of war crimes like any army would be in this kind of conflict. But when people say stuff like this, that Ukraine is not guilty of targeting civilians, that is a blatant lie. You guys understand? They have tortured, kidnapped, killed people who they found to be quote unquote Russian sympathizers, people who was in Russian territory that was taken over, and then whenever Ukraine seized territory back, they will punish people who was quote unquote helping the Russian forces out.
This is because state lies, Nick, is okay, and I think we did a stream on this before. State lies are okay, but real truths is the problem.
Yep.
And that's what we're seeing here. It's okay to broadcast state lies. It's okay even on YouTube. I mean, we saw it with COVID. We saw it with a bunch of other stuff. We saw it on Twitter with the censorship through the state. So that's fine. It's when you're trying to tell real truths. That's why we get people like, I think his name is Scott Ritter, gets banned on Twitter all the time. And then I forget this one great account that was, all they did was post like video of like clandestine sort of military shit. That shit is gone. So that's all. That's not good. But state lies are okay. Back to you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna play the blatant lie. Go, JB, you want to chime in?
Yeah, it's ridiculous because a lot of times the news will actually talk about what's really going on, and then they will pull back on what they said from years ago. Like, for instance, there was the articles, and I know you've brought them out multiple times, where they said, oh yeah, the Nazi problem in Ukraine. And then you try to talk about it now, it's like, they're like, what Nazi problem? It's like, the one that you guys just fucking reported on a few years ago. Now you guys are not even paying attention to your own reporting. You guys are saying, "Oh, we didn't report that." No. What Nazis in Ukraine? I didn't see no Nazis in Ukraine. You see no Nazis in Ukraine? You're like, I don't see no Nazis in Ukraine. And I'm like, and we pull up the article, and it's like, you guys reported on it. Are you guys saying that you don't stand by your reporting now? But this is the corporate media. And the corporate media is owned by the corporate dictators. I mean, that's the thing. It's just it's weird.
Look, this is from antiwar.com. U.S. warships sail near Chinese-controlled reefs in South China Sea. The provocation came as China was holding major exercises around Taiwan in response to the Thai McCarthy meeting. So you have U.S. warships in Chinese-controlled area, but that's just the United States is doing what they do. Whenever China responds, that's them being escalatory, according to the United States media. So I'm gonna continue to just a little bit more. I'm gonna play the part where she just said the blatant lie again.
Weapons, and there's only one party in this war that's targeting innocent civilians. So what do you make of President Xi's comments here and his quote unquote commitment, shall we say that, to bring more negotiations?
Surely he's going to have a balanced answer here. Surely.
We've heard these words before from the Chinese leader and from people down below in the Chinese system. They're saying platitudes. Of course, innocent women and children shouldn't be hurt. Of course, peace is better than war. And of course, nuclear weapons shouldn't be used. It's like...
So he's like, whenever the Chinese people say they want peace in Ukraine, whenever they say we could do not condone the use of nuclear war, he said, "Oh, don't listen to that. They just using platitudes. Don't listen to that part." I know it sounds like they want peace. I know they sound like they are condemning nuclear war, but don't believe them. They just saying stuff that make them sound good. You see how desperate this is? That's legitimately the argument he just used.
Saying that sky is blue and grass is green. This is also part of what people call China's peace plan that was unveiled a year into the invasion. That's basically a laundry bag of very familiar talking points that we've heard from China. At the same time, there is
oh my God, China, this peace plan, they keep talking about territorial sovereignty. The China propaganda respecting the sovereignty of other people and not supporting and arming Nazis. They just snarkle at these ideas. Meanwhile, they have not rebuked it. Nothing is saying rebuking the Chinese position. But let's continue.
Very familiar talking points that we've heard from China. At the same time, there's nothing to suggest that China is really ready to pressure Russia into sitting down for a sincere negotiation with Ukraine. And I think that President Biden got the same wording from Xi Jinping. Before that, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz had also Xi Jinping same platitudes. But at the same time,
this is what they always do. They always show these meetings and they show Putin speaking. They're like, "Oh my God, look at this ominous person speaking." Why are they not showing you what they're saying?
No audio.
They never show. You can watch CNN and MSNBC segments all day. They will never directly quote Putin because they mostly just lying about his positions and what he's saying, and they know just airing his positions is devastating for the West. Why do you think Russia's went over to Africa? Because they be going over there and they make more persuasive arguments than the West. So they don't even want Putin shit to air. They just show footage of him talking instead of airing his arguments. But anyway, I'll go back to the part we was at.
Platitudes, but at the same time, China doesn't show in its behavior that it's ready to use any sort of influence and use any persuasion to make Mr. Putin abandon his current disastrous course.
Yeah, and to that point, China hasn't proven to be an honest broker here. I mean, you had Xi Jinping very publicly make a trip to Moscow, a couple of days he spent there, which was rare for him. And yet he has yet to pick up the phone and call President Zelensky. He said,
"You guys hear what she just said? She said, this is the neutral, quote unquote, neutral TV host. She said China has shown itself not to be an honest broker here. And you want to know her evidence of that? She said China made a trip to meet its closest trading partner. Putin. They had a meeting with Putin, and Zelensky wasn't invited. Oh my God! How dare you not invite Zelensky to your fucking getaway trip? That's their argument. Go ahead, JB.
You know what? I remember Bianca Golodriga from ABC News a few years back, and from what I see here, it says she was born to a working class family in the Moldavian Soviet Socialist Republic. You see, and her family left the Soviet Union as political refugees, and they settled in Houston, Texas. Says her grandmother joined them in Houston, and her mother is the chief digital administrative officer for Philips, and previously worked as chief information officer for Hess Corporation. Her father, a mechanical engineer, was a consultant for DuPont. So, and plus she has made her rounds through corporate news media. So, of course, she's hired by the corporate media because she believes what the corporate, companies say. So, yeah.
To me, there's not a single thought going up in there. Like, it just memorizing shit. You know what I mean? I'm not like people who get like all A's in school. They got like they good at memorizing shit. You know what I mean? She was in the honor roll. Like, she was really good in school. You can tell, all A's. You know what I mean? She got that photogenic memory. She looked at her notes one time and she getting 100% all her tests. She was on the honor roll. She went to Yale. She went to elite academia. She made friends. And like, oh my God, she got this great photogenic memory. So say like, here's your talking points. Here, everything you gotta remember about China. And she memorized this shit like it was a quiz, like back in high school. And then she go out and repeat it. I'll play the argument one again. I'm gonna let this guy respond. I'll wrap the segment up. I'll let this guy go one more round. Then I'll wrap it up. But there's not an original thought in her head. And when you look at corporate media, as we said many times before, it is not a meritocracy. This person got here because she is the best at memorizing talking points. You guys understand? There are people who try to get in this position, but they're not as good at memorizing the talking points as she is, as a Mehdi Hassan is. You know what I mean? They're at the top of their class, and that's why they're there, making the big bucks, and everyone in their boutique family is proud of her. But let's continue.
Says that may or may not happen in the future. What do you make of that decision?
I think that President Zelensky has very unpleasant things to say about China's role in keeping the Russian system afloat. China is becoming the major buyer of Russian oil. It's the major supplier of dual-use goods, including chips. We know that Chinese producers are part of Russian military supply chain, including weapons that are used on the battle. This
is just demonstrating the unhinged position that Ukraine has, that everyone must stop doing business with Russia. How is that sustainable, and how is that realistic, especially considering that China and Russia are such close and important trading partners? So Ukraine is like, oh my God, anyone who doesn't cut and destroy their economy and send their people into poverty in order for us to wage war against ethnic Russians, if you do not do that, you are our enemy. How is that a rational position? NATO left. How is that rational? It's not. Let's continue.
But somebody asked the question: what qualifies? Like, not that he has to go to some school, but what? Like, who is this person?
Oh,
he's represented like an expert or something like that.
Remember, CJ, in the intro, they said he paid attention. Like, he watched the news. They said he follows the Russia-China relationship. You mean what we do? What does it mean to follow this conflict? You mean what we do all the time? What makes him unique? He does a good job at following it. He follows it in a uniquely professional way. But to answer your question, CJ, I'm having fun. Nothing. They could fight any one of us. They could fight any one of the people we had. And there's nothing in this segment will change. But he's a professional guy because he said what they want, right? You guys are roasting this guy. You guys are roasting this man.
I'm putting it on the screen.
I'm not I'm not going to tone police anybody. I'm not here to tone police anybody. I'm gonna keep it professional though. I'm not here to tone police anybody. Y'all cracking me up. Let's keep the video playing.
Killing Ukrainian civilians. And at the same time, China is very slow to roll out its support for Ukraine. It's pledged below $1 million in humanitarian assistance, and yet that's not being delivered. So picking up this phone call and listening to all of this makes Xi Jinping vulnerable. If there is a risk that President Zelensky will disclose the content of negotiation, that's probably not the risk that the Chinese leader wants to take. It could be really embarrassing for him.
So, given these meetings now between European
This is the last
officials
question, and then we move on.
and President Xi, you have obviously President Macron there, you have Ursula von der Leyen, you had the German Chancellor visit recently, and you also had the Spanish Prime Minister visit China recently. Xi cannot deliver any sort of sincere pledge to be an honest broker and end this war, but he can deliver something economically. And that is his real intent here, right? Is to sort of try to drive a wedge between the United States and Europe in terms of their relations economically.
China want to drive a wedge between the United States and Europe by advocating for peace in Ukraine, for advocating for peace between Iran and Saudi Arabia. By doing such a thing, they're driving a wedge between Europe and their allies because the people in Europe may agree with China. Macron come back and talk about strategic autonomy, and now that's China's fault. Oh my God, how dare China be more persuasive? The same complaints about Africa. China is colonizing Africa. There's imperialism in Africa because they're more persuasive in Africa signing with trade deals. And I wanted to cut them off like the United States want them to. Last part of the video, and then we can move on. CJ, I'll pass to you if you have any story.
Yeah.
We get to the main one here soon. I know JB, you have a story. I can pass to you here too as well. But last part, and then we move on.
With China, he's said that he would like to sign a cooperation agreement over aerospace, civil nuclear energy, agriculture, supply chains. That's just for France. Do you see this as an effective strategy on Xi's part?
By the way, and this is the question. Sorry, I keep interrupting. That's my bad. But why are they asking about G's strategy?
Yeah.
You are American media, aren't you? Why
Go
aren't
for the
you
same thing.
grilling Biden about their strategy? You guys see the cowardice of Western chauvinists and journalists who make it? All they do is focus on criticizing other countries, talking about their strategy. Meanwhile, Biden completely destroyed the United States dollar. They're standing among the world. They lost the support of many of their close allies and friends. But there's no close analysis of strategy for CNN regarding Biden. But this is literally the last part I'm playing. I'll move on.
Is pulping and sensing these divisions in the transatlantic camp. I think that the Inflation Reduction Act and the US push for European economies to decouple from China is creating rifts and discussions within EU. Because if we take France, it was not as dependent on Russia for its energy as Germany, but it still was. And now this Russian pillar of German economic prosperity and European economic prosperity is gone because of sanctions. And then China is a major market for Germany, France, Spain, and other countries. And here Xi Jinping senses a weakness that these leaders need to go to China and need to secure their position in the Chinese market. And they're also in competition. Olaf Scholz went there alone, despite Macron's suggestions to go together. So this competition inside Europe and the rifts in the transatlantic camp is something that Xi is happy to exploit. And if you need to provide diplomatic cover for this, so you go to the leader of the most powerful authoritarian country in the world, you don't do that for petty business of Alstom and other French companies. You do that for the cause of peace in Ukraine. And that's
this guy was completely trained by an American.
Yeah.
He was completely trained by an American. And it's almost like he was put out there before he was ready, because he is literally enunciating the words too much. He's exaggerating. He's like going like this when he's talking, because that's English is not his native language, but he's still, you know what I mean? He's remembering the talking points and he's trying to say it correctly. But this is clearly because he's trying to use adjectives that only an American, a person who's born in America, will kind of use these kind of phrases politically. He's trying to use those phrases. Like it's so inauthentic to me in practice, and clearly somebody is trying to train this guy.
Yeah, well said. And you guys want to you want to hear what he just said? I'm gonna sum it up.
Play that again. Or if you want to play it again,
he asked him about why China is a bad faith actor in peace deals in Ukraine. You want to know what he said? China is expanding their economy. They're doing trade deals with Germany and France. How dare they pursue the expansion of their state under the guise of pursuing peace in Ukraine? And I'm asking you guys, as Americans, as people who are supposed to be afraid of China, what part of that offends you? What part of China wanting to grow their economy and increase the quality of life for their people, what part of that offends you? That is his argument. He's like, oh my God, look at China doing planning, doing diplomatic meetings. Look at China over there thinking he's the shit. Then you got some new Jordans on. You think the shit. They just haters. They do these segments. They just be hating. Look at China over there thinking that meet with.
Go ahead, JB.
Go ahead, JB.
In regards to peace between Ukraine and Russia, she came in just like Thanos and said, "Fine, I'll do it myself." Because guess what? Naftali Bennett was the one who said that the West basically interfered and said, "Oh no, we can't have peace." Guess what?
Yes.
Ex-Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett blames West for thwarting possibility of peace between Russia and Ukraine. So guess what? This is why she was like, okay, I do not want my people to die, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to broker peace because I don't want to die. And so guess what? That's what they're doing. And guess what? Now they're going after him for wanting peace. Oh, perish the thought that someone from another country that wants peace, wants you to not die. That's crazy, right?
This headline is, and I got two quick receipts just on that point, and now pass to you, CJ. Look, Saudi delegation arrives in Yemen for talk with Houthis on ending the war. The so-called China peace talks. And as JB said, you had the CIA director who flew all the way to Saudi Arabia to express his displeasure about the recent peace progress. The CIA, the United States, and the West is like, how dare China help peace occur? How dare peace occur? That is their argument.
Yeah.
Inspiring peace around the world, and they don't want you to do that. This is literally, like I said earlier, this is the other major example in the world that they don't want other countries to see. Yeah. They only want to see capitalism as a way. Go ahead, JB. You were going to say something.
But, okay. This is crazy because let's take gangs, for example. Somebody who wants to broker peace between the Crips and the Bloods, you're going to get mad at that guy? Wait, let's make this make sense. You're getting mad at the person that's trying to make sure that we all don't die from a nuclear holocaust. I want you guys to really sit with this. You're getting pissed off at the guy that wants to make sure that you don't die? Man, that makes sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. It's psychotic. And CJ, Nick, I don't know why you guys aren't screaming right now because my voice is going up a couple octaves over this. I'm just like, how do you guys hold it together? Because I can't.
Wait until you see Fox News trying to say. I can't even do it, man. Like Lauren Ingram, she is so aggressive, bro. She brought this dude on. I don't think I even did that segment. I got a dig for it. I think I saved it, but I didn't do it. But I don't think we're gonna do it today. She brought this guy on. It was like 3 minutes, bro. It's way more aggressive than the one we just watched.
Oh God.
It's all in. They all in. But CJ, I'll pass to you. You can do some announcements, or
I'll do some announcements, and then we'll get to the AOC. We'll get to the main story. But let's show what the topics are. Here is our graphic, and just so everybody knows, narrative control the two main stories that are kind of narrative control, of course, the big news about the leaked documents, the leaked U.S. government documents displaying several things from spying on our so-called allies to all the steps and to some of the steps in decision making in Ukraine. And John Kirby basically saying, stop reporting on this, reporters. You shouldn't be reporting on this. So John Kirby trying to control the narrative. And also we have David Sirota helping AOC control the narrative, and that's the progressive Democrat narrative that we're going to be discussing also. And then if we're able to get to some other stories in the air, Nick may have some, JB may have some more, and let me see what we have written down. A truck carrying toxic soil from East Palestine overturns. So we're going to cover that. This story of East Palestine just gets better and better. And if we have time, we will get to the Kentucky bank shooting and also the Tennessee 3. And that's the 3 people. Two of the 3 were expelled from the Tennessee State House. We'll talk about that. And then I also want to delve more into the Saudi-Yemen peace deal. Nick kind of talked about it a little bit, but geopoliticaleconomy.com or .org, I can't remember which it is. They put out an article about it. In other words, Ben Norton's news publication. So, all right, so now let's get to the other announcements. Hit that like button if you will. We have 350 people watching, so let's try to get to like 300 likes. We also have Substack if you're interested in getting notifications when we go live or have clips drop. 32,400. We've crossed that. Thank you for all of those that have subscribed recently. We have memberships for all of those that are new and may not be aware. We have a YouTube membership that we can now offer. I think it's about a month old now. We have YouTube membership. Here's our website, revolutionaryblackoutnetwork.com. And again, let's try to get us to 350 likes, and we'll get right into this next story. Nick, you hipped us to this interview. You posted the clip first. You the one that noticed the little preview clip a day before. And then when it dropped, he was like, this shit is crazy, son.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Go ahead.
I was like,
Go
the
ahead, Nick,
audacity, and that's what you're gonna see, the audacity of AOC. Because one of my friends who always like to tip me off, he sent me. He's like, yeah, I know you covered the first part of the interview. He's like, bro, you gotta check this shit out, fam. Like, this shit is a doozy. I was like, oh man, he literally piqued my morbid curiosity. So I clicked the link that he sent me, and the audacity of AOC here. And you're also gonna see what happens when you ask a challenging question with no follow-up. Because David Sirota asked a few challenging questions here, but there's no follow-up, and he also kind of accepts her premise on a lot of these. So that's why he's getting roasted for having this softball interview. So he will pose a question that he knows that people want to hear, and then he lets her completely off the hook with her blabbling answers. Remember in my interview when I said I'm 100% for interrupting politicians? This interview shows what happens when you don't interrupt these motherfuckers. And David Sirota's, and I'll post this on Twitter, I'll show you guys, his own audience is roasting AOC because she is deeply inoppressive in this interview. You guys want to know what I think? When I heard of this interview, I was thinking about Kamala Harris. AOC sounds just like Kamala Harris recently. Her thoughts and her ability to present information as a leader is pathetic. And David Sirota, and this is my last preface, is kind of holding her hand on these topics. And it's unbelievable how unimpressive AOC is. And just like Kamala Harris, you can tell this person was coached into a potato. Like, their mind is completely fried now because they got so much coaching. Because no matter what you used to think about AOC, she used to have this dynamic, progressive communication skills, swagger. that got her a lot of New York people to support her, right? Now she's like Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris level nincompoop to me now. And that's my prefix. I know that sounds harsh. It sounds harsh, right? Wait till you watch this shit. Wait till you watch this shit. I'll talk to you guys.
Nick, real quick. AOC, more like AO Spud, am I right?
Are you talking about the macro or the micro? Oh man! But
all right, so
let's
get.
I got a lot
video.
more to say about this. Like
This interview is terrible. So we already know this is going to be our longer segment out of all of them. But the leak document segment might be a pretty good segment too. But before we get started, we have 360 people, 200 likes. We can use another 125 of us. Hit that like button. We need more people to view this analysis of this breakdown. And the reason why RBN kind of, and somebody said it in the comments, Nick, because you sent it to me. RBN is gonna have a field day with this shit.
Yeah,
right?
that was one of the top comments in the video. They're like, oh, one of the top comments in the video is like, "Oh my god, RBN is about to have a field day with this video."
Because and I'm glad people lean on us or think of us as we are the bullshit caller outers. And I know I just made that up, but we are the people that call out this progressive Democrat bullshit so animatedly, I guess you can say. But let's dive into it. I can't see you, JB or Nick, so let me know if you want to start. Give me a verbal cue, gotcha. And let's get started.
So speaking of that, and I should mention, our readers send in questions. A lot of these questions are an amalgam of their questions. The squad has been billed as a block of votes that hold the Democratic caucus and the Biden administration accountable, and to create that boundary. At one point, you had said, and this I think is a quote, in any other country, Joe Biden and I would not be in the same party, which I think is a commentary on the way our country's politics are set up. However, you, for instance, have voted 91% of the time with the Biden administration. That includes votes.
I was, before he said that, I was about to stop it and say, if you look at her face as he begins the story that he's trying to paint, and don't get it twisted. Don't think that this is a hard-hitting reporter, because how he frames it is to blame them in his setup, and then he says, you go along with it. Yeah. Now, can you chime in? So he never directly says, you are doing this. That's not how he is trying to frame it. He's trying to frame it by putting the blame on all this other stuff, and then ask her a question, and he think this is holding her feet.
Yeah, I'm glad you saw it too, because David does a lot of things where he pretend to be adversarial in this interview, but he actually holding her hand and being soft on her, and that's what we have to explain. But let's continue.
Now watch how her face begins to change as he speaks. And some like your face, unless you've been trained, like CIA, FBI trained, your face has tails when your brain hears something, and it's a split second before you're able to catch up to it. So just watch her face as he's saying things. Uh-oh.
Now compare her, and with that said, compare her body language. I know you mean, 'cause I watched about half of it. Compare her body language, and like even in this interview, where she getting semi-challenging tough questions, versus when she was on Seth Meyers, versus when she's on Rachel Maddow, where she's buzzing. She's so happy to be there. But meanwhile, when she have any semi-tough question, that's when you see her tense up. That's when you really see how uncomfortable she is.
Of their questions.
That's when she dives in.
The squad has been
leaning into her heavy coaching. But we can continue here.
Cool. Thanks for filling in right there. All right. So I think the video is good now. Let's watch her face as he proceeds with just telling the story of his question.
Billed as a block of votes that hold the Democratic caucus and the Biden administration accountable, and to create that boundary. At one point, you had said, and this I think is a quote, in any other country, Joe Biden and I would not be in the same party, which I think is a commentary on the way our country's politics are set up. However, you, for instance, have voted 91% of the time with the Biden administration. That includes votes on the rail workers' strike, the spending, I think it was $40 billion on the Ukraine war, billions of dollars to microchip companies.
You see, he includes the strike and the Ukraine, two of the biggest subjects that he should be asking her individual questions.
Yes, DJ.
He just packages right there. And so she doesn't have to individually address that. This is access journalism. So don't see the people who are going to be watching this. Watch Rational National come out. AOC and David Sirota slay the Democrats. And we're going to be like, what interview are you guys even watching? But this is how it's going to be framed. Like, what do you mean? David Sirota asked some hard-hitting questions. Like, no, he did not.
They're going to be like, he asked her about Ukraine. But you notice how he includes that in about the overall question about that should be individual question. And then because he asked the question like this, look at how AOC is able to get out of it. Because he's like, all right, since you give me a list, I'm gonna pick the ones I want to talk about.
Right.
I'm gonna exclude the ones I don't want to talk about. And the way he interviews her gives her a way out. And because he lacks any ability to have a follow-up question, he doesn't circle back to it. He lets her off the hook. But let's continue. You guys see what we're talking about.
That have been criticized for using the cash to do buybacks. You and a group of progressives also didn't withhold your vote on the American Rescue Plan when the Biden administration kind of abandoned the minimum wage. So the question is, how can you hold your party accountable or create that boundary with the Biden administration when you and progressives in the Congress are oftentimes voting for what the party leadership wants and not, or very rarely, sometimes, but rarely holding out your vote when the party really, really needs it?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question before we get to her answer. That's a good question. How can you, and I'll pass this to JB, I'm curious to hear, how can you say, hey, I'm going to hold my, spouse accountable for cheating when you're cheating 9 out of 10 times also? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're doing the same thing, how are you going to hold them accountable? Exactly. If you are voting to break a strike, if you are voting to send money to Ukraine, do you see how you cannot critique him now? You see how you can't hold him accountable for something you're doing yourself? So, JB, what do you think the answer to this? Because I don't know. Have you seen this? What do you think this answer should be?
I am fresh eyes, bro.
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking you. Like, what do you think? Like, what would your answer be to this? And then we'll listen to what AOC's answer will be.
If I were trying to weasel my way out of this, oh gosh. First off, I'm a horrible liar, so well, that's there. But somebody like AOC would probably go with she'd probably say something like, we need to coalesce together, and we have to make certain concessions in order to move through Congress. And many people don't know what it's like to be where I'm at. And so this is you think it's one way out here, but it's not really that way. Damn. I feel like he's going to go that route.
Damn,
but
JB.
I don't know.
Damn, JB is better at AOC than AOC. Because your answer is much better than the answer she gives. Spoiler alert, she blames us. She blames us. Let's continue. You guys see why I'm being?
So, I want to address kind of two parts of that question. I'll get to some of those specific votes, but I do want to emphasize that, as you mentioned, there are times where we do break with the party. For example, on Build Back Better, that was a year-long war.
Look, he was like, you vote with Joe Biden 91% of the time. Can you explain that? She's like, yeah, I know factually you're correct, but there are actually times, look at 9%, though. We 9%. Like, why you bring the 91%, man? Why you trying? But anyway, let's continue.
Like, you understand 91% means 9 out of 10 times. And then she's trying to say, let me talk about the one time. Literally
Everyone
what
does
she's
that.
doing.
Like how many
No.
politicians is not like 90? How many politicians 100%? Like most numbers I see is like 80, 90% with your party. AOC, you're no different than the standard politicians just based on the numbers. But go ahead, JB.
Yo, this is the equivalent of your spouse coming to you and going, "Why did you cheat on me? 10 out of the 12 months a year." And then the person goes, "Why you gotta focus on the 10 out of 12? What about the 2 months that I didn't cheat on you?
Come on, man.
Why you gotta focus on the negative? Come on, let's focus on the positive. Come on, look." I didn't cheat on you. Look, February, that was Valentine's Day. I didn't cheat on you. And then in December and Christmas, I didn't cheat on you then. So what's the problem?
Remember that trip we went to in October, man? We had a great October. Why you worried about the month?
Remember when we went to Pumpkin Patch?
Oh,
Let's
man.
continue.
For sure.
That we had inside our party. And listen, there were moments where in the lead up to that Build Back Better and bipartisan infrastructure vote, where the President of the United States was on the speakerphone with us saying, you need to do this. And we said, how are you going to the pretense that the president for Biff, and trust me, I will get Build Back Better across the line. And right there with us, facing the president, we're saying respectfully, this is not about and the framing here.
She's literally stunning her way through this. Like she's winging this. She had no idea where this is gonna end. David Sirota literally destroyed her already.
He's not even trying to do this, man.
Not even trying.
Like these people, Chuck Todd and David Sirota, they're even trying to destroy these people. They're literally packaging it in a way so they not to offend you too much, but to seem like they're being a real journalist, and you are fumbling that. How are you coming on the show, a friendly network, and I'm sure they talked about the subjects that he's going to touch on, and you're this ill-prepared, this off your, and we all know you have a burner account. We know you're reading what everybody is saying.
Yeah.
We know
We know
Zsa.
you're reading it.
And this is what I said earlier, Ryan. She sounds like, come, CJ, go back like 8 seconds. Okay. And you guys hear what she's like, she does her best Kamala Harris impersonation, right? Remember, guys, the original question. What is it with you voting Biden 91% of the time? She brings up, we had a friendly conversation with Joe Biden. She brings up all this shit that's completely irrelevant to the fact that you keep bowing down to the party. Sorry, you can play from here.
Okay, hold on a second. Yeah.
Across the line. And right there with us, facing the president, we're saying respectfully,
I'm going to vote with you.
This is not about and the framing here to give a window into how internal politics.
Now that's 2 times she goes to say, we were on the phone with the president saying, and she goes to say what was said, and then she pivots to not completely and say what was said. And then she said, so you got to get the framing. So this is a person who understands. This is like somebody who has to explain they cheated. You know, Usher confessions. This is my confessions. You know, when you came in, it's like it's like, so I saw the girl and so she came over here and she was like, and I was trying, but you get what I'm saying? This is not what it looks like.
Yes, I was butt naked, but I had an itch, and she had to scratch it, and that was it. That's all it was. It's not what it looks like. Come on, that's what it felt.
What happened was.
What happened? So terrible. Does she know she looks like this? Because this is not the first interview. The relational harm, like she looks like this. It's almost like she doesn't go back and read and watch these interviews and be like, how I can be better.
Remember how
she can't get better at being on the fly. Go ahead, Nick.
Remember how I told you guys she was coached into a potato? Like now you guys seeing. Well, no matter how you guys feel about AOC, I feel like you would be wrong if you say AOC did not have some sort of charm and charisma about her when she first hit the scene. No matter how you feel about her. They took that and now look at her now. This is ridiculous. And this is why even David Sirota own supporters who are to our right, even they was like, man, there was a lot of word salad in this interview. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was pretty unimpressive. Even they was turned off, as shown by my tweet I put out earlier today. But let's continue because there's still a lot of breakdown because wait till AOC really get to who she really grievous about. And you can tell because like David Sirota doesn't lead her down this way, and I'm kind of giving you a preview, but she naturally starts talking about people she agrees by. The people who criticizing her because they're making money out of it. So you know this is going on in the back of her mind all day, every day. I wouldn't say us because we're not big enough, but people like Jimmy Dore, the Black Agenda Report, people who go after her, and that shit is bothering her, and that's going to show in this interview.
She has a burner account, so she's in all these things, pushing back and seeing all of what's happening. So to me, another thing that the burner account did is expose that she cares about what we're saying.
Yep.
That's why she's in these comments. She cares. So let's get back to the video. AOC trying to complete her word salad.
The internal politics of the party works is, do you trust us or not? Do you trust this leadership? And you have to tell this person, right? This is the, Speaker Pelosi, President of the United States, the Vice President, you have members of the cabinet. And they use kind of like a collective environment. This is not a private conversation. It's almost like an invitation to try to say in front of everybody.
What did she say?
And that challenge. And
you can keep playing. But I'm asking you guys, like, remember the question about you voting a lot with Biden? What is she talking about? What does that have to do with anything David Sirota asked her about? I'm asking you guys. And David Sirota just lets her go on, lets her blabble. Look, she trying to make the audience forget about the context of the conversation. And I'm watching this, and I ain't forgetting. I'm looking for the answer. But let's continue.
To stand up to the speaker and to the president and say, this is not a matter of trust at all. This is a matter of votes. And it's not that I don't trust you. It's that I don't trust Joe Manchin. And I don't know if I trust anybody to be able to bring consistency out of a person who does not have any.
What did Joe Manchin have to do with the fact that you keep voting with Joe Biden 91% of the time? You see how she shifts it? She completely pivots the conversation. David Sirota asked her about why you vote with Democrats so much, and she's like, "Man, I'm not a rebel against the Democrats. I hate Joe Manchin. You tripping? What are you talking about?" Let's continue.
All of that is to say is that I think that some of these votes also speak to that progressive infrastructure that we're talking about. When it comes to the rail vote, for example, we worked very closely with all elements of the rail workers, both not just the Teamsters, not just some of.
Hold on, please.
Some of the other formal unions, but also those members of the unions that were rebelling against the initial round of these agreements. And it was in tandem with these
This is the part where she's pretending that she was some sort of renegade on the rail strike. David Sirota called you out and how you voted with Democrats on the rail strike. And this is AOC pretending, just like Ryan Graham, because they lock arms and they 100% in cahoots together with this bullshit. They're pretending that voting with the Democrats and breaking the rail strike was the pro-worker thing. That's the part where AOC pivots to. Let's keep playing. But this is unbelievable gaslighting by AOC.
Organizations, like when you look at, for example, RWU, and some of those folks that were leading the fight on opposing that initial agreement to a terrible contract, those were the folks that we were working with in developing our organizing strategy around this. And it was.
What organizing strategy did you have?
Oh my God, man. Let's listen.
Listen, following.
It's not an organizing strategy, Alexandria.
She's just saying words that she thinks sounds good. She's like, "Oh, I think I let this audience. Let's say, oh, I'm trapped in the corner. We had organizing strategy when we broke the rail strike. We came in solidarity together, right? We came in solidarity and we engaged in mutual aid to break a rail strike. Like she's just filling in what she think is left terms. Like this is ridiculous. With the rank and file. This is ridiculous. Let's continue.
The actual rail workers lead, both on both camps. This was not just about choosing traditional union leadership, but also that rank and file grassroots leadership.
There it is. Rank and file
we tried to determine.
The rank and file grassroots that was furious when you guys voted to break a rail strike. AOC is lying to David Schroeder's audience that somehow she was doing their bidding. And remember, CJ, this is what Ryan Grimm, this is the argument that he's making. Man. And this is what made Shama Sawant call him out on our show. Like this is what made Shama so upset with Ryan Grimm. She's like, I'm about to ether this motherfucker. Not JB style. But remember, do you guys think, and this is a question, JB, I know you want to chime in, but this is the question. Do you guys think that it's a coincidence that AOC and Ryan Grimm have the same talking points on this? That they just so happen to come up with that same line instead of some sort of memo being passed out, some sort of game plan or session that these people have. Because you know that Ryan Grimm was the first one out to defend AOC and them about breaking the rail strike. Now AOC turn around and sounds exactly like Ryan Grimm on this issue. You guys think that's a coincidence?
And you know the people
from Ryan Grimm. See, y'all pass to you, but AOC is getting her information from Ryan Grimm. That's what this is supposed to. CJ, go ahead. I just want.
No, what I was gonna say, I think in the article, it comes out that these workers who wanted them to break the strike just so happened to be DSA people out of the Jamal Bowman office. Get the fuck out of here, man.
Get the fuck out
Not
of
to
here.
say that those workers didn't exist, but it's to say these are Democratic clowns.
Yes, the minority.
That's okay. It's okay to say that there could be some workers who are Democratic clowns who are willing to go out and provide cover for them. And there could be a case where Ryan Grimm, Jamal Bowman, and AOC are working together to use this as a cover story, and they're just taking advantage of a worker who may not be politically set. So it's an array of things. But what's clear is that what you did, AOC, is pick the minority of workers, because what you did know is that the vast majority of votes didn't want this. That's what you did know about the workers, regardless of this small group that you supposedly working with to give you cover.
And the people who wanted to vote against the Democratic deal, the people who were not against that, they was telling people, they was reaching out to Bernie, AOC, and them say, "What the fuck are you guys doing? Join us." And then AOC, and she's gonna continue to make this point in the conversation. She said, "Oh my God, no one was directing us." Like, man, no. If only there was someone that could have told us the right thing to do. And meanwhile, the entire left Twitter, RBN, all the rank and file people who did not want a Democratic deal, with the majority of them, they was like, "Guys, do not fucking vote for this." And she's like, "Man, if only there was someone who told us." Let's continue, because she's gonna get to that point.
Determine our strategy. That we worked with Senator Sanders and we worked with many others, saying, how do you all want us to proceed? And that initial push was
to liar. You are such a liar to blame these workers. You are such a liar. So she's saying they had no intentions of voting for this. But she said, "Come in here, workers, hardworking workers. What do you want us to do? Vote for it? Break the strike? Okay." That's so when you have kids, AOC, your kid's gonna come in and say, "Can I have this bucket of ice cream for dinner?" You're gonna go, "Okay, I guess." I mean, like I'm saying, the point that I'm making is, if a worker comes to you and you're a socialist and says break a strike, you would just simply say no. You would simply say no. Literally, you would simply say no. So trying to pretend like you did something bad to workers because workers told you is not an excuse. It's not.
Well, I mean, this is pretty. this is pretty indicative of how the Democratic Party operates, because when the majority of workers actually in a union actually do want to strike, then they're going to break it. Well, if you look at what most people who are in the Democratic Party, and I'm not talking about people who are Democratic Party operatives, I'm talking about just people who typically vote Democrat, they always want something that's better for workers, and then who doesn't go along with it? Well, it's the people who run the Democratic Party. They never want to go with what people actually want. For instance, healthcare. They never actually want to do it, even though there's near 90% of Democrats who actually do want a single-payer healthcare system. And so that being said, they never go along with what the people actually want. They're always trying to tell them what they think is best for them instead of the people actually determining what they want. And so this is the exact same thing. And then they find just a couple of holdouts who think otherwise, and then they'll go, oh, see, I talked to a worker, and it's like, yeah, but how many of them were actually against the strike and how many of them were for the strike? Okay, the greater majority, that's what you go with. And if the majority of everybody wants to go on a strike, then that's what you go with. No matter, look, the thing is that it's called majority rule for a reason.
Yeah.
The thing is that they're listening to the union bosses. They're not actually going to the rank and file. And even if they go into the rank and file, they're going to the minority in the rank and file. That's the majority. And that's the problem. And that's where she's sneaky. And the thing is my question would have been, my follow-up question, I would have interrupted and I said, I'm sorry, but why did you break the strike?
Yep. And to your point, there was rail workers that was interviewed on multiple independent media outlets. That was like, we was upset about this.
Didn't they go on Savvy's network? Didn't they go on Savvy's
there was Savvy network. There's countless independent, and there was a big group chat that they leaked that showed that a lot of people was upset about this decision that management was making. And when we initially broke this down, CJ, I said it, and I still maintain this position. These workers that Ryan Grimm and AOC, I got two takes. Like, this is the take I have, and the take that I can back up more. The take I originally have is like they make these people up. They're making them up. They got plans, and they say, oh yeah, they had a Democrat strategy. They knew what Joe Biden was gonna do, so they was like, we're gonna find people, or we're gonna make people up that agree with the Democrat position, and we're gonna say, oh, we talked to these workers that agree with Joe Biden's strategy of breaking the strike. Those people don't fucking exist. And the second take I have on that, if you guys don't believe in that, is the simple fact that these are very minority workers that they was like, all right, I'm gonna ask like 20 workers. They asked 20 workers, what should we do? 5 of them was like, don't break the rail strike. They found the one person that was like, let's break the rail strike. They're like, hey, I talked to this worker. He said break the rail strike.
It'll be like this. Let's take what the professional managerial class and these Jacobin types like the lever, what they love. Let's take Starbucks. So we have Starbucks voting at a lot of different Starbucks locations. You have 24 people who vote yes and 24 people who vote no to form a union. What AOC is saying, she's going with the 3.
Yeah.
That's what AOC is saying, people. She's going with the 3 and not the 24. And she's trying to say, because she asked for 3, please let me off the hook. And we're saying, why the fuck are you going with the 3 instead of the 24? So no, you're not off the hook. That's the best way. Let's continue
because you're gonna see she's gonna continue to lie in the most shameless way possible throughout this interview. Let's continue.
To rubber stamp this agreement with no attempt at getting paid leave, and procedurally, what we were asked to do by that rank and file is to get us a paid leave vote. That was the determination. That was the organizing leading up to that vote. That was the request that was made of me. And that is what I agreed to deliver on. Now, I think on the other end of that, there is a difference between this kind of like spontaneous digital response versus the actual organizing rooms and people that are directly impacted by this. And when you look after the vote, folks like RWU were saying this is what we asked them to do.
So
this is why you interrupt politicians. Go ahead,
She
Debbie. Go
said
ahead.
there's a difference between this spontaneous online response versus what's really on the ground. And it's like, but a lot of the people who were talking were saying this because, by the way, it wasn't spontaneous. A lot of the people who are online were actually talking about this for a long time. And then on top of it, a lot of us actually had rail workers on. Sabby Sabs. She had them on. And then guess what? They said, no, if we need to strike, then that's what we need to do. And you went against it. So what is this spontaneous online response when in reality, the online response was actually the correct response because in the end, it was actually better for the worker. Are you with the workers or not?
Now, this is why RBN exists and needs to exist. Because AOC is going to play a very important role about rewriting history about this shit. This shit just happened. That's why we were like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm not going to forget. But wait for 5 years. Wait 5 years from now. AOC is going to be, actually, the rail strike workers, actually, we did what they want. And people are like, is that how this shit works? Did they do it? She's doing this on purpose. She knows she's wrong. Yeah. They're going to continue to hammer this point over and over again until the winners do what they always do, rewrite history. And that's what AOC trying to do on this issue. And you guys wonder why RBN focused on calling these people out? She's extremely nefarious and she's playing a role. If we don't call her out, she's going to rewrite history on this shit. But let's continue.
Now, granted, I think that got drowned out by the noise of just people kind of operating more on like the theory of the situation. But, you know, I think ultimately,
the theory. Oh my God! I know in theory we're not supposed to break strikes. Why you guys so hung up on the theory of it? I know in theory you're supposed to listen to what the rank and file want, but come on, man. Let's continue.
What are we doing, man? Like I just had such a surreal moment. Like, what the fuck is this, man? Why are people still invested in? You know, people who are still invested in this. People aren't like the professional. They're seeing this as bullshit, man. But it's not enough bullshit for them to change the strategy because the wins don't matter to them. The tangible rewards you'll get from doing this stuff, it's something they already possess. So they don't care. This is like a thing to them, like a career. This is why she's saying, in 30 years, I'll get you Medicare for all because AOC is going to be there for 30 years. And Sam Cedar want to cover it for 30 years. And Emma Vigland want to cover them for 30 years. And this is just the business. It's just, what would they do, Nick, if we get Medicare for all, we get all the rights? What is Sam Cedar going to do for work? What is Emma Vigland going to do? What is Cenk Uygur going to do if we get these things? So getting these things or trying to get these things is the point to them. It's just supposedly trying. It's almost like they never want to make a real effort because if you make a real effort and get it, then what are they going to do?
Yep, let's continue.
Ultimately, there are moments where there are going to be internal disagreements about strategy. It is so important, especially among the left, that we develop a discernment between when there are differences in strategy. Sometimes they are intense and sometimes they are rigorous and vigorous disagreements versus equating that difference in strategy with somehow a 180 change in commitment.
So she's saying, you can have a difference in strategy. This is what David Sirota banks on too, that a difference in strategy shouldn't be a deal breaker, and that should absolutely be a deal breaker if your strategy continues to fail and you do not change it. So you're my partner on the battlefield. Okay, my strategy is going to go over here. Okay, you did it. We did this first round. That didn't work. I come to you and I say, Nick, what's your strategy for this next round? And you tell me the same motherfucking thing. I'm going to be like, nigga, you crazy if we doing that shit again. You get what I'm saying? But that's what they expect us to do. Go ahead.
this is next level gaslighting. Because remember the question that she's working hard to make people forget. The question is about you voting with Biden on the rail strike, and David Schroeder even mentioned Ukraine. So AOC is like, yeah, I voted to fund a little bit of Nazis. That's just a small strategic disagreement. In what universe is voting to arm Nazis and breaking the rail strike is small differences? This is what the professional managerial class is trying to drill in the head of people. That our foreign policy differences is not a big deal. Breaking the rail strike, that's not a big deal. Us not showing up to any of your actions, us not supporting general strike, not showing up to your March for America for All, us not showing up to join the silence protest, not us showing up for the anti-war protest, us not showing up for the worker strike back, that's a small strategic disagreement. So if we are allies in this fight, AOC, and we just having disagreements about strategy, when have you guys ever agreed with one of our strategies? When have you guys ever said, oh, actually, that's a good idea, guys. I agree with you there. Oh, maybe we should fund Nazis in Ukraine. No, this is a one-way relationship. This is a one-way abusive relationship where AOC and the progressive boutique professional managerial class scumbags, they look at us and say, this is what we're doing. This is our strategy. Shut up and fall in line. And we're like, hey, actually, we have a different idea. We got this March for America for All we're organizing. I think it'd be a good job. Hey, can you guys join us on the March for America for All? They said, fuck you. We're not joining you guys, you fucking peasants. We're not doing you fucking peasants at your march. Then Sharma Sawant, who's an acceptable person usually among the professional managerial class, she starts the worker strike back, has an event, and she invites AOC and the progressives, and they said, fuck you, we're not going to your event. And then now AOC wants to say, oh, come on, man, we've got strategic disagreements. No, guys, this is what we want to drill into you guys. We do not have small disagreements. These people are our enemies who will always oppose our actions. Are you clear? Are we clear? If we have an anti-war rally, they're going to be against that. If we have a March for America for All, they're going to be against that. If we organize a worker strike back, they're going to be against that. But now AOC want to pretend that we got disagreements on strategy. Get the fuck out of here.
Spot on. I couldn't have said it better myself. All right, so we
can continue. Or let Debbie want to chime in.
Go ahead.
And to our vision and our principles. And trust me, there is so much money and so much interest invested in sowing chaos on the left. And
there it is. I'm gonna let the part continue because this is the part where they blame us. So remember, the original question was AOC, why do you vote to break a rail strike? AOC, why are you voting to send weapons to Nazis in Ukraine? He didn't frame it that way, but that's the question. So her response is that there are people like RBN, there are people like Jimmy Dore that keep exposing us. Yeah, I got these votes, but these people, they making a living exposing us. I'll let it continue. Let's let this bullshit. Go back 5 seconds and let it continue, because this is where her answer to the question on her votes is to blame us. To blame the people who do not like AOC. It's our fault.
Change in commitment to our vision and our principles. And trust me, there is so much money and so much interest invested in sowing chaos on the left. And I think there is a moment where we have to realize that the same tools that are good for us, the development of and the way that we can use the internet to bypass some of the traditional structures that have gatekept our media, gatekept our political organizing, etc. These are still algorithms owned by billionaires that want to incentivize internal conflict, and they do. And
so billionaires at YouTube is upping our views on your bullshit, AOC. It's not your bullshit, though. You see how the bullshit is not selling it. It's some outside force. So she's saying the bad shit that I'm doing, they don't rise to the level of people should be upset. You know why people upset? There's an outside force that's convincing them that the bad shit I'm doing is bad. That's what's happening. Like, if you weren't doing these, if you weren't voting to break a rail strike, AOC, if you were forcing a vote if you were showing up to a Medicare for All march, how would anybody have any sort of ammunition to even talk about you? No, you're not doing any of this stuff. That's the point.
Dude, CJ, there's time when we be playing our shows. I'm like, do you see this AOC shit? I cannot believe that she keep doing this. Like, AOC can easily give us no content. Can easily give Jimmy no content. You gotta know this answer, and I'm not pretending are being that big, even though I know they definitely know who we are. But this is her definitely just airing her grievance about Jimmy Dore out. Because she's talking about, oh, there's these algorithms. She ain't talking about us. She's talking who's the biggest channel that is a harsh critique of AOC that's talking about the real strike in Ukraine vote, not the right wing stuff. She's talking about the people who are criticizing her on the left. Who is she talking about?
It's only Jimmy Dore.
Let's say gray zone. I'm not going to say us for the sake of the conversation. Now I include us. The gray zone. Jimmy Dore. You had the Black Agenda Report people. Convo Couch. You got all these real leftists that have been calling AOC out for the comeback that she is. And her answer regarding her votes, and remember, that's the original question that she's been filibustering this whole time. This question was about her votes for Ukraine and for breaking the strike. And she's saying, be worried about people like us, people like Jimmy, the independent media that's holding her accountable. They're only exposing stuff because we somehow is profiting off of this. As if the people in David Sirota position is not in a better position than profiting off of it. The people who are profiting off of it is you, AOC, the person who got a lifetime pension from being a sellout in Congress.
Right.
The people like David Sirota who got an Oscar and Grammy, and the person who got access to this interview. The people who are making the most money are the professional managerial Bernie industrial complex who made a ton of money and became millionaires covering for you people. Kyle Kulinski became a millionaire covering for AOC. But the people who speaking truth to power against the two-party establishment, exposing AOC, according to her story, those are the fat cats. Those are the people who unlock the secret of the algorithm. So she's blaming us for her votes. JB, or we can continue.
Yeah.
I'm already done with her.
I do believe that there are times where we have fallen for it. That being said, that criticism is fair, and that's okay. But many of these votes, what I think, like if I were to ask for something, what we need.
She doesn't complete thoughts. She just like in sentences and then stops and then just kind of goes on and then stops and then moves on.
It is that a lot of times this organizing and reaction happens after a vote, and before.
No, go back like 5 seconds and I'm gonna let it play because I remember this part. I want her to finish this story. I'm gonna explain why this bullshit. I want her to explain it.
I do believe that there are times where we have fallen for it. That being said, that criticism is fair, and that's okay. But many of these votes, what I think, like if I were to ask for something, what we need is that a lot of times this organizing and reaction happens after a vote. And
the reaction happened after the vote. AOC just straight up line. So remember, the question is about Ukraine and strike breaking. RBN and literally all of our friends was like, don't vote to break the rail strike. Don't vote to break the rail strike. Don't vote to break the rail strike. Then AOC voted to break the rail strike. Then she said, oh man, if only there was organizing beforehand. You had us from the beginning of the Ukraine crisis. You had Jimmy and many others since the beginning of the Ukraine crisis saying we should not support sending weapons to Ukraine. And then she voted to send weapons to Ukraine. Now she said if only there was organizing there that could have told us beforehand that we shouldn't have voted for this. This is bullshitting of the highest order. Marjorie Taylor Greene has nothing on this. Like, this is high level bullshitting.
Wasn't there organizing what forced the vote? What happened there?
Yeah,
they were organizing with that.
March for Medicare for All, the Rally for Julian Assange. There have been so many organizing that you have ignored. And now AOC, remember I said in the preface, she blames the outside game. She said, yeah, I did all these horrible votes, but that's all because you guys are not showing up. You guys are not telling us what to do. As if she don't know we exist. Like she didn't see the anti-war rallies. As if she didn't see the people that were standing against the Democrats breaking the rail strike. This is disgusting, guys. Who's the worst liar in AOC? after listening to this. There are people on her level. Biden is on her level.
Yeah.
Right? Trump is on her level. But no one worse. No one's worse than this. But let's continue.
All right. Let's take that off the screen. Let's continue.
And in the lead up to a vote, we are often asking, begging some of our grassroots partners for a position.
They was begging us for a position on Ukraine. CJ, does that sound like what happened? They was begging activists for a position on the rail strike. So AOC is blaming us. This is unreal.
Nick, if you would have sat there and let Marianne Williamson ramble on, this is what would have happened.
Yep.
It would have been an incoherent, like, people would have been like, what was the question again? What was the question? Somebody in the comments, comments like, what was the question? What was the question again? But this is just let's let it play some more. Let's just leave it at that. Let's let it play some more. I do want her to say this last part again. Let's let it play.
Yeah, I think it speaks for itself.
What we need is that a lot of times this organizing and reaction happens after a vote. And before and in the lead up to a vote, we are often asking, begging some of our grassroots partners for a position.
Like we're the lazy ones.
And
that is just such a blatant lie from force to vote. We just listed all the stuff where you were begging when we're demanding you take a position, and then when we make that demand, you say we not. Remember Anina Turner? What kind of relationship is this? And we're just supposed to listen to what you say. That's what she said.
Look, here's what it is. It's a cop-out. She's passing the buck. She doesn't want to admit to her own fault. Because what she's saying is that I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And so what I'm going to say is, well, I asked you. That's like doing something that they didn't want you to do, and you knew that you weren't supposed to do that, but you do it anyway, and then you send them a text message afterwards asking them, and it's like, oh, I think you just got the text message. I'm sorry, I sent it beforehand, but you just got it. And it's like, but you did the thing before you even hit send.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is nefarious on his face. And the thing is that people really need to look at people like this and see them for what they really are. They are charlatans. They are liars. They are swindlers. And the thing is that you'll have some of them that they have a great personality. And the thing is that with that great personality, they will use it to swindle you out of your $27. And then guess what? When you ask them, why didn't you do what we told you to? Then they go with the high-pitched voice, but you weren't going to tell me. And then guess what? We were there to tell you, but you just weren't listening to us. And so then we go, you're a liar. And then it's like, oh my God, that's violence. Stop it. And we're like, but you lied to us.
Yeah. And
so then something else comes up. And before it even happens, we'll go, don't do this. And then they ignore the people. And then they do it. And then we're like, you were a liar. You didn't listen to us. Stop all this violent rhetoric. And we're like, we told you what to do, but you didn't do it. So therefore, this is what I like to call voter and public insubordination. This is voter and this is public and voter open defiance. Therefore, in Cuba, she would have been recalled 2 years ago. She would have been recalled for the lies that she did. But the problem is that our government does not listen to us. And this is one of the reasons why we tell you, save your money. This is why mutual aid is so important. This is why doing different actions on the ground is so important. Because if you really want a return on your investment, if you want a good ROI, you don't invest in bad investments like Jaja. You invest in different organizations that will help people on the ground. If you donated to AOC, this is what you paid for. How does that feel? How do you feel about what you paid for? Do you want a refund? I sure as hell would if I did. If I would donate to her. And so the thing is that she's like, "Oh, you're not saying anything," when you've been saying it with your voice loud as can be. You said it not with your voice, but you said it with your money. And guess what? She didn't listen. She's just like every other politician. She does not listen to you. And then she will blame you because she did not listen to you. That's Zsa Zsa.
Let's continue, because I think a lot of it speaks for itself.
And
let's see after, because there's been quite a bit. So let's see what David Schroeder's follow-up is after all this bullshit word salad that we broke down for like an hour now. Let's continue, and then you eventually see what the spicy follow-up take that David Schroeder has. Let's continue.
And a lot of times, and I think that this is also often for resource reasons, that organizing doesn't often happen until after the flashpoint has already occurred. And what is most useful, most beneficial, is for that engagement to happen prior to a vote, prior to that development. Because, you know, what we're able to do, for example, with the rail vote, is to, like, the only partners that I had leading up to that were our rail workers. And if that's what...
This is bullshitting at the highest level, man. Go ahead, CJ.
And David Sirota knows what she's saying is bullshit, but he says nothing. Like, he knows this is a fucking joke, what she's saying.
Yep.
He can barely keep a straight face for this garbage that she's saying out here.
Man, look at that. He knows she's bullshitting, man.
Yeah, he knows.
He knows it. He's like, God damn it. RBN's gonna roast her for this shit.
Yes, just like with Jordan Sheridan when he mid Marion Williams, he was oh shit.
You can tell.
RBN is gonna be on this shit.
Yep.
That's what they asked us to do, you know, then that's what we did.
I mean, I think your point about there being differences in tactics ending up being interpreted as a difference in values is a.
It's not an interpretation. This is what they're trying to say. They're trying to say, this is what they're trying to say, is that a strategy that we design that keeps failing does not indicate whether or not we are serious about this. So don't judge us by the strategy that has failed for literally 30 consecutive decades. That is what he's trying to say. So we're saying no. If you are intentionally doing this strategy that you have seen fail multiple times, you are lying about what you're saying you want to have done.
Yep.
Go ahead.
And you notice that David Sirota, after hearing that ridiculous word salad, her reaction was, girl, you was spitting fire on that strategy part. Yeah, I agree with you on that. That's his follow-up after all that. Now, let's go back. Let's hear the full question. But how is that the part you agree with, David? Like, he's like, yeah, I get what you're saying about the strategy thing. Yeah, I mean, we supposed to disagree.
Yeah,
on
he heard all of that, and that's what he zeroed in on.
Yeah, so I'm gonna let the rest. I'm gonna let his part fans not chime in afterwards.
And if that's what they asked us to do, you know, then that's what we did.
I mean, I think your point about there being differences in tactics ending up being interpreted as a difference in values is a huge thing. I mean, it's just a huge issue. I guess the philosophical question on that is, I think there are a lot of people who look out at politics and see so much money invested in so many different outcomes that aren't good for people. They perceive both parties selling them out in different ways. The Republicans being super extremist.
He blocked us, but he's literally describing our politics. What do you think he's talking about? RBN or not is irrelevant. He's describing our politics. They know our counter argument, CJ. So this is him like, what will you say about the RBN left about this shit here? What will you say about here? So let's continue. He tried.
So much money invested in so many different outcomes that aren't good for people. They perceive both parties selling them out in different ways. The Republicans being super extremist, the Democrats maybe saying the right thing, but oftentimes not delivering. I guess as just a follow, when people are, from your perspective, misinterpreting a difference in tactics and strategy for a difference in values, do you blame them? And I guess, why shouldn't they see it that way if they feel like the political system has been selling them out for 10, 20, 30 years?
I don't blame a lot of people for that. I do blame some, because I do believe that there are folks and leaders in the space that know better. And
know better than what? What is she saying? They know what better? So let's listen if she answers. Let's listen and see if she answers.
They fan flames that they know are disingenuous for personal gain. And I think that
they fan flames that are disingenuous. So the flames, the inanimate object of a flame, has its own emotion. The flame is disingenuous, not the person who is creating to critique that creates the flame.
No, CJ, hang on. This is projection. Think about it. It's projection. Who's fanning the flames? Well, who doesn't do anything to put it out? Who's fanning the flames? She continuously goes, the Republicans this, the Republicans that, the Republicans this, the Republicans that, when in reality, she's working in line with them. She's part of that setting up the balls before somebody takes that shot. She does that every single time. But then when somebody wants to go into a different direction, she's like, oh no, they're fanning the flames. But in reality, she's part of the people that's fanning the flames. We're literally trying to put the fire out. Right? And it's projection. That's all it is.
Remember the original question. Once you remember the original question, you realize how horrible this answer is. And I mean like Dianne Feinstein level shit right here. Dianne Feinstein yelling at kids level shit. David Sirota fires back. There are people, he's talking about who have been sold out by both parties. People who feel like it's better use of resources to do something else. What will you say to those people? Her answer to what she would say to us is, I think they're grifters. I think they're benefiting on fanning the flames. Yeah, I voted for Nazis send weapons to Nazis in Ukraine. Yes, I voted to break a rail strike. But the people like us, the poor black people who are covering it, she just called us a grifter in a very nice way. What will you say about the people who are very upset and feel like both parties sold them out? AOC's response is, I think they're grifters. I think they're fanning the flames in order to profit off it. So if anyone who had criticism of the two-party system, anyone who had criticism of the Justice Democrats and AOC's response is, you're only criticizing her in order to get followers, in order to fan the flames and make money. That is what AOC believes. This is what her narcissism told herself.
Nick, let me ask you a question, and this actually goes into my projection comment a little bit earlier. What happens when you get sent to do a job and then to do a specific type of job, and then the job that you go to, you actually don't do the job that you said you were going to do? What is that called?
I don't even know. What's the word for it, JB?
Grifter.
Yeah, exactly.
Grift. Yeah, that is true.
Because you told somebody you were going to do a specific thing, and then you went to do the job and you didn't do it.
Exactly.
But you got the money, you got the accolades for it, and now you're sitting there, and now you're telling other people, oh no, these people who are calling me out, no, they're the actual grifters. When in reality, you were sent there to bring a ruckus, right? And you didn't. And now when people call you out about it, then you want to basically manipulate people's brains and go, oh no, they're the grifters. When in reality, you were the one that was grifting the entire time.
Cory Bush got a fucking book deal. Cory Bush got a book deal. But they calling us they calling people who criticize them a grifter. This is as bad as an answer as it gets from politicians to me. You guys think so? She was asked a legitimate question here. What would you say to the people who've been sold out by both parties and upset with you voting with Joe Biden 91% of the time? They're grifters. Pathetic. But let's continue.
And I do want to read this comment. I love how she and others accuse people of criticizing her for personal gain, grifters, as though the defenders of the squad aren't the ones earning vastly more money. The Cenk Uyghurs, the Majority Reports, the Rational Nationals, the Humanist Reports, the Breaking Points, the Ryan Grimm, should I go on? The David Sirota. Shabby did have the receipts, but David Sirota was getting paid, man.
He was making bank, son.
Look, I'll put it this way. I do not make $170,000 a year.
Me either.
Oh, that's crazy. Think about
a lot of people. I don't get, thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars per year in my Patreon account. I don't have any of that. And so the crazy part is like you are basically telling people that all you need to do is listen to me more, when in reality, where has that gotten us? Look, I want every single one of you to look into your wallet right now. And if your wallet doesn't talk back at you with a full mouth, then guess what? Somebody lied to you. Look. Hey, remember DuckTales?
Yeah, DuckTales.
You are fibbing. Yeah, that's what's going on. I took y'all back.
Thank you for the $5 super chat, GV Black. Thank you for $5. Double check you like the video. Also, make sure you guys check in. You still subscribe. A lot of people have been getting unsubscribed recently. Really been hurting our channel, so make sure you double check that. But I'll pass to you, CJ. We can continue the video.
That is, there's a lot of incentive in that. In when there is kind of an economy that has developed that is based on clicks, views, and attention. And we know
the audacity of the Bernie industrial complex to act like somebody's making money off this. That's the point. And that was the comment to kind of like what the comment earlier was saying. Like the audacity that y'all are trying to say somebody's making money off of criticizing you, which they should. If people want to hear the truth about you, which is a criticism, then what's wrong with them getting paid? But then for you to make this claim when the opposite is way more true.
So
that
obviously
the people who are shielding for you are making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Go ahead.
She said that as she's literally giving access to David Sirota. Literally giving access to David Sirota, which will increase his income. She's saying, oh my God, look at those grifters, the people without access. This is unbelievable. Go ahead, JB.
Go ahead, JB.
Let me ask this question. How much does she get paid for speeches where she criticizes Republicans?
Remember what I said, the biggest grifters are politicians, guys. The biggest grifters are politicians, hands down. And when she says, and we can continue the video, when she said, she literally tells on herself clicks and likes. Once again, let's assume she's not talking about us. Who is the biggest one? Jimmy Dore. Guys, Jimmy Dore lived in AOC's head rent-free. She brought up Jimmy Dore completely unprompted here. Russell Brand. Who else is bigger? That's on the left that's criticizing AOC. So she said that people are making a lot of money with likes, clicks, and views. Who has 1 million subscribers? Jimmy Dore. So apparently, according to AOC, it's Jimmy Dore's fault that she voted to send weapons to Nazis in Ukraine. God damn, Jimmy, will you stop talking about it? Jimmy, RBN, will you guys stop talking about breaking the rail strike? They keep talking about me selling out the left, and they keep making money doing it. That's worse than what we do by selling out and getting book deals. Because when we vote for pro-war shit, apparently. Meanwhile, let's continue. There's so much bullshit breakdown. We already knew this was gonna be a longer segment, but let's continue.
The thing that attracts that more than anything else is conflict. And so there are financial incentives for certain people, I believe, whose income, revenue relies on that.
It's so ironic, and it's so pot calling the kettle black. What does your income rely on? You voting for Ukraine?
Yes.
What does your income rely on? You being soft on Israel and the Iron Dome vote, changing it from a no vote to abstaining? Like, so what is she like? This is complete, like you was just saying earlier, JB. This is complete projection. Like, how many things has she said? And we're like, what do you mean? Either you or the professional managerial class does that. So what are you talking about?
To stoke conflict. And frankly, it's a recreation of a lot of what we see in mass media, right? Like, mass media is so left-right heavy. It's so Republican versus Democrat heavy, precisely because it drives, a large contributor is because it drives viewership. And I believe that, when you get into more niche audiences, it's the same thing, that those similar conflicts can be driven by amplifying sometimes those disingenuous takes.
You guys realize AOC went on this rant completely
to
unprompted,
fan
right?
intra-left.
You guys realize that AOC went into this rant completely unprompted?
Hey, let me ask you guys.
So you guys know that I'll pass to you, JB. You know AOC been sitting on this for some time. These goddamn independent media outlets are exposed. These motherfuckers. How much money they make? She's been sitting on this. That's why she ran on it. But go ahead, JB.
She's complaining about cancel culture. Think about it. She's complaining about cancel culture when really is just holding people accountable. Here she is complaining about cancel culture.
Yep.
She may not be saying the words.
That's exactly what it is.
She's saying exactly what it is. She's complaining about cancel culture when really people are just holding her feet to the fire.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. That's such a great point, JB. That's exactly this is her version of like the Ben Shapiro, Matt Gaetz saying, "Oh my God, they're canceling me. The purity test." That's literally the same thing. What she's saying here. Goddamn Jimmy Dore and RBN calling me out for Ukraine votes and real strike. Because remember, guys, that is the basis of this question. That is the basis of this question. And she rambles on this shit unprompted. And David Sirota is sitting there in horror about what he unleashed. Because they know everyone about to talk about this shit.
In horror.
Because this is AOC talking about RBN and Jimmy Dore. She literally brought up clicks and likes.
Yeah.
She is calling our faction and independent media out directly because we are the people on the left that's calling her out for the things that David Sirota specifically asked her about. She's not talking about the right wingers. David Sirota didn't use right wing attacks. She talked about the Ukraine vote and the real strike. Who's criticizing her for that? That is left wing criticism. She's calling out Jimmy Dore and RBN right here, and she's been sitting on this and she's been seething in this show. Let's continue, guys. I'm sure y'all get funnier from here. I think we made a lot of good points, but we can let finish out here real quick.
Conflict, which is, I think, and I want to also be thoughtful and create space for the fact, because I don't want to equate that with saying, any criticism of our decisions is you're just playing into the hands of someone else.
I'm not trying to say anything I just said. I'm just saying. You ever know that? You ever have a friend that says that? I'm just saying, bro. I'm not saying. Yeah. I didn't say that. I'm just saying, though, bro. I'm not saying you look fat. I'm just saying, man.
Yeah, you're literally saying both sides so that you don't really take. You literally say both sides so you're not taking responsibility for either point of view.
There are just multiple things.
I'm sorry, JB, you were gonna say something?
No, it's like, oh yeah, you guys are free to criticize us. We live in a free country. Go ahead and criticize us. No, don't criticize us that way.
Let's go.
That can be true at the same time. I think that this is something that we need to really develop and talk out, because a lot of these decisions are not last minute. They may happen last minute, but we can often see that they're coming from a long ways out. We just don't know exactly when, right? But we will, and not just me as a member, but I believe that us as movements, you see certain tensions happening. This scale up to the real vote was months in the making. And so we had been in communication with workers for months about how do we want to see this unfold? And the number one thing that we had that emerged from those conversations is that the thing that was absolutely most important.
Because even like these people who watch Death Row, I'm sure they're good intention. They're still like lost in the sauce, but they hearing this shit from AOC. They like AOC, and they're like, "What the fuck are you saying?" Like, for if you guys are curious, I'm not calling for a brigade because I want to be artificial, right? But just look at the comments. I'm not asking you guys to brigade Dave Schroeder's comments, but look at it. Even they are like, "Bro, this AOC sound like Kamala Harris right now." You don't have to be a Marxist. You don't have to have army in politics to see what AOC is saying. Like, huh? Huh? This Kamala Harris level shit. Let's continue.
Important is paid leave, securing that paid leave, and also tactically what we are materially capable of. I understand that theoretically, in talking about the strike, like I understand why someone would have that position, but we need to be honest with ourselves about what something like a wildcat strike takes, and
what does that have to do with you voting for it? Like, that has nothing to do with it.
Why are you casting doubt?
That literally has nothing. Go ahead, JB. Go.
Why is she casting doubt? Nick, remember that article from the CIA that you brought out about casting doubt upon different groups when they try to actually wield their power from a grassroots position? Remember that?
Yep. That's bring up unnecessary concerns as often as possible. Number 4 on the list. I got to live down or memorize, guys.
Thank you. That's all I got to say.
She's actually been employing CIA tactics, a bunch of them, all the time.
All of them, yeah.
This word salad thing, that's what that is. Absolutely.
She mastered them. Number two on the list, like, give super long-winded speeches, and that's exactly what she's doing here, trying to get people to forget, like, be very inconcise in your answers, like she's doing. But go ahead, let's continue.
Are we ready for that? Are the seeds sown for that? Sometimes they are. We've seen that with the teachers' unions and what happened in West Virginia and what's happened in Los Angeles. But sometimes a workforce may not be prepared for that.
And if they are prepared for it, I'm going to be there to break it. Sometimes workforces are ready, sometimes they're not. But if they are, I'm going to be there to break their strike. Let's continue.
So she would have known, because she said she was in contact with these people, and now she's saying sometimes they're not ready. She would have known these rail unions were ready.
Yeah.
These rail unions were ready and had already planned to be going on strike. So what are you talking about?
Here's my problem, though. It's like, well, they weren't ready. Then get them ready.
Yes.
Be a leader. Be a leader, AOC.
Then get them ready. See, this is the thing. I'm glad y'all having this conversation because look. This guy, because the thing is that she talks about bringing a ruckus, but the thing is, she's just trying to put you to sleep. There's nothing to worry about here.
That's it.
That's all. Look, we're doing the job. You guys don't need to bring up a ruckus. Shh. No. Don't listen to those guys over there. Just go to sleep. We got Joe Biden. That's all we need to do. Just go to sleep. Simmer down. That's basically what it is. Are you guys ready to simmer down while you're burning in a burning house? Are you guys ready to simmer down? Are you guys going to calm down? Because guess what? You guys still have, this student loan debt. You guys have tons of medical debt that you guys have to worry about. Are you guys going to simmer down now every single time you see somebody who gets themselves shot by police in the streets? Are you going to simmer down every single time you see somebody get evicted from their home, or if you get evicted from your home? Are you going to simmer down every single time you see another Palestinian person getting shot and killed by the IDF? Are you going to simmer down every single time you see another bomb that blows little brown children up to bits in the Middle East? Are you going to simmer down? Are you going to chill? Is that what you're going to do? Or are you going to, like Killmonger said, take care of business? Go ahead.
That's from the Black Panther. For those that didn't know, that's from the Black Panther.
Let's continue.
And if a movement isn't, then we have to decide what other tactics we're going to use.
I want to turn to just a couple of issues real quick. Healthcare.
I know that sounds good to AOC. That sounds good to me. No follow-up. Once again, I bet you David Sirota thought he killed this interview. He's like, bro, ask her about Ukraine, kind of. Ask her about the real conflict. You gotta see what I said at the beginning of this story. You asking semi-hard questions means nothing if you have no follow-up. What value is it about you asking about Ukraine and then she skips over it and then you don't go back to it? What value is that? This is why I told you guys I'm pro interrupting politicians, because David Schroeder fell for it. He fell for it. Asked her a question, AOC started talking forever, and David Schroeder probably forgot what he asked her. He probably forgot.
What is the job of journalists if you're not going to be adversarial to the politicians in power?
What is the point? I don't get it. I don't get it either, JB. I don't get it either. Let's continue. But let's hear a follow-up. Go ahead, JB. Go ahead.
Well, no, because if you're not going to be adversarial to the politicians in power, then that makes you just a yes man.
Yes. Word. Oh, let's go.
It seems to have completely fallen off the Democratic Party's agenda. And this is our readers are very interested in this. As president, Joe Biden literally hasn't even mentioned the public option that he promised during
Oh my God. They're trying to act like that's the next big thing. Get the fuck out of here, man.
Also, I hope this is the part. Sorry, my bad, CJ.
No, go ahead.
This is a good part to end on. This is so. Actually, I'm gonna let. I don't want to spoil it. This part is so good. I'm gonna let it continue.
Okay.
If this is the part I think it is,
I haven't. I gotta be honest. I didn't get this far. So if you said something here, let's see. Let's listen.
Let's see.
Pain. Healthcare crisis is getting worse, and it seems like the best that the sort of Democratic Party can agree on is to promise to throw more money at health insurance companies through the ACA exchanges, while also the Biden administration is continuing to privatize Medicare.
This is a Medicare for all. So this is pertinent to listen to this part. I do now remember this now. He said that part.
Through Medicare Advantage. All of this is only a few years after Bernie Sanders' 2016 campaign seemed to galvanize the real prospect for a Medicare for all push. So the question is, why do you believe the Medicare for all push seems to, at least right now, seems to have stalled? And why does it feel like healthcare isn't even really an issue for the Democratic Party right now?
It has stalled. This is what you described in the interview with Marianne Williamson. He was like, Medicare for all is all but dead. What are you talking about? We're not getting that for a while through the what do you mean? We brought consciousness and he is softly describing what you described, like this shit is dead. He said, why does it seem like it's stalled or paused? And this is a good question. I think this is another good question for her to have to address. Now, the question is, does she address it, really?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that I do think that the power of the insurance lobby is so incredibly powerful. You know, if I had to think about like the top, it would probably be fossil fuels potentially, but pharma and insurance is way up there. And I also believe that big pharma and also the insurance companies have a broader number of members that can be influenced by them, you know.
So here's the problem, AOC. Here's where the progressive Democrat strategy and narrative falls off the rails. Because this is where she's trying to make the distinction in all of rational national human support. Yeah, AOC, that's right. She's trying to say, we're corrupted. You aren't corrupted, AOC. You vote with Joe Biden 91% of the time, and you're not corrupted. So what is the point?
Yep.
Let her finish out this.
Go ahead. We can let finish. This is not the part I thought, but we can write the segment. You guys can watch the full interview. I'm gonna explain a certain part because there's a point where David Sirota was like, Biden is doing all this crazy far right stuff, like expanding fracking. He issued more public drilling permits than Donald Trump. What's your thought about Joe Biden's far right shift? And then she starts out like, yeah, Joe Biden has in some ways been kind of disappointing. But he also has been, if you think about it, one of the most progressive. Like, bro, you couldn't even criticize him. She did.
I think that's in here.
If you look at the title of the video, David Sirota titles the video, AOC calls out Joe Biden.
Yes.
In order to gather sympathy for her. But she did not do that by any stretch of the imagination. She's saying, yeah, Joe Biden disappoints us sometimes. But if you think about it, she's kind of the most progressive president we ever had. He actually did some stuff with it. She immediately pivoted to apologizing for him. So check the whole interview out. We may not have time to cover that part, but make sure you check it out.
No, it's here. It's on here, but it's at the end. So what I'm gonna do, because that's a clip that I edited. What I'm gonna do, I queued it up specifically to that part on the YouTube version.
Oh, I'm glad you saw that part too. I'm glad you saw that part.
Yeah, I queued it up to it. So let me play that part you're asking, and this will be the last part to close this.
Yeah.
Which includes both lots of subsidies for green energy.
Hold on a second.
Filibuster.
Yeah, I think this is the part. Yep.
Let's turn to climate. I mean, scientists are warning that climate change poses an existential threat for all life on Earth, telling us we got to halt all new fossil fuel development. And in response, Congress did the Inflation Reduction Act, which includes both lots of subsidies for green energy, but also a big potential to expand fossil fuel development. And as we discussed, the Biden administration just approved this Willow project in Alaska. Looking back on the last 2 years on the whole, has the Democratic Party helped the fight against climate change, or has it made the problem worse? And has it taken...
This is not the question I was looking for, but this is a good question. I don't know if we want to save it for another segment or answer it here, because this is a climate question. So this has nothing to do with ideology. Oh, you want Medicare for all. This is life sustaining, right? Everybody needs this.
Mm-hmm.
You want to save it, gentlemen, or you want to hear her answer here?
I want to hear.
What I'm doing, I'm trying to see if I can find that spot real quick. Play the spot real quick.
Yeah, you can look for it, and I can play it. Yeah, I can play it while
you
look for that.
I'm trying to see if I can find it real quick.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you can let it play. You can let it play. CJ, you can let it play. I'm gonna find this spot real quick. CJ, you can let it play.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Taken the problem as seriously enough as it deserves to be taken?
So when it comes to climate, I want to kind of talk about with this question about the party overall. I'm not.
I found it, by the way.
I'm a major critic of the party that I am a part of.
Are you? Are you though?
And so like I can speak to, I think the Biden administration has been very disappointing on climate. We have seen both in the first 25 months of the Trump presidency versus the first 25 months of the Biden presidency. Biden has authorized more fossil fuel permits and I believe projects. And so, even just in the brass tacks of it, this is a serious issue on the Biden administration, I think is failing on, also with immigration as well, but that's a separate conversation. However, it's this duality of multiple things being true at the same time. The IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the climate provisions in it is both the biggest action in American history, with these substantive, really structural shifts that will, I believe, unlock significant developments.
You notice how when she's describing the good part, you hear all of these great adjectives that she's trying to kiss back up to the establishment, but she's saying this is where we have duality. Let me explain another analogy I use here as duality. Here's duality 2. You're in a sinking boat with one other person. Both of you have a bucket. One of you is putting water into the boat. One of you is taking water and put it out of the boat and put it back into the ocean. How does that help? How does that help, AOC? That's what she's trying to say with climate change. Somehow we can have permits and do damage, but these provisions that make it better does something to do what?
CJ, AOC is now the biggest climate incrementalist out there now. They advocate for incrementalism. This like climate change is you either right on this issue or you're wrong. So she mentioned and you see, like you said, you brought up a good point how she used like powerful adjectives to describe the good, but then she like blow past the bad. It's like, yeah, I know Biden been kind of disappointed. However, if you think about it, he passed some significant climate legislation. What is it? You guys see how she can't even bring a single thought of criticism of Biden without letting it finish? We can let this part finish.
Yeah, but if you have that part, you can pull it.
No, this is good. I think this part. This is the part. I think we can wrap it there. I think that's good. That's good.
So I think I want to show the comments.
Yeah,
that's the last of the video.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So that's the last of the video, but let's just read some of the comments. And it's right. You're right, Nick. The very first comment is that comment about RBN. Let me scroll back up. Scroll back down. My bad. The very first comment. Where is it? Right here. So far 79 comments. And that says RBN is going to have a field day with this interview. The lies and rationalizations here are wow. Now, this is what I love about this comment. It's not like RBN is going to have a field day because they're just going to be yelling and saying crazy shit. They say the lies and rationalizations here are wild because they know we're substance. But go ahead,
they didn't know we gonna correct that shit.
You want to chime in?
Yeah. But this is
any other?
This is I don't recognize any of these names, and this is before. Look, we can't control David Schroeder's audience. We can't control what David audience upvotes, right? Because these are upvoted comments, not like random ones.
Right.
These are David Schroeder's viewers. Like, man, AOC's unimpressive. God damn, that was horrible.
Look at this one.
This one comment on her answer. Embarrassing and disappointing interview where, ironically, AOC filibustered every answer. This is David Schroeder's own audience saying, man, she was giving a softball interview and she still filibustered everything.
Wow.
Unbelievable. Look at plus 12. Look, like we can't control the lights, guys.
We didn't do this.
Audience.
I didn't sort this a particular way. I just went to the video and I'm just going top to bottom, however it's sorted. Let me read this one. This softball interview is a new low, even for Sirota.
Damn.
And this is not like they seen our stream, Nick. And
this
then
is
they
before.
make this comment.
This is a day ago. This is before our
stream.
Before I even tweeted about it, guys. I didn't comment on this video before these comments was placed. I saw it this morning, like, holy shit. Anyway, let's continue, CJ.
It says AOC on the railroad vote, quote, we voted however they wanted and rolled over like puppets, end quote.
AOC did not convince David Schroeder's fans. What does that say? She couldn't even convince. I'm not dissing them because once again, I'm sure they're good people, right? But they are not all like on the left as we are. Even they saw. Look, because AOC has been such a disappointment. It is hard to be a little angry at the level for hosting her. Guys, these are people who follow David Sirota. Even they are done with AOC. And they saw this interview and David Schroeder doing a favor. Like David Schroeder, just by having her on the platform, destroyed her. Now you guys see why AOC refused to do independent media? He had as easy as an interviewer you're gonna get. Probably the only person who'd probably be easier is Emma Vigeland. Like if Emma or Sam interviewed her, it'd probably be worse. It'd be worse. But this is about as easy as it gets, and then she's getting roasted by the audience. So once again, I think the audience people are good and maybe ill-intentioned. So I think majority report audiences, like if Sam Sitter interviewed AOC, Sam Sitter give her a softball interview, but even majority report audiences, some of them will be like, I don't know about this. I don't know about this because once again, I don't think
here goes a positive comment. So we read this one, and I just clicked to see the replies. I wanted to see what the AOC stands had to say. And here goes one positive comment that I was able to find just now. She hasn't been a disappointment to me. She is one person in a giant system that hasn't worked in a long time. We, the voters, need to bring in as many progressives. It's on us. So this is a professional I bet you this is a professional managerial class member. We have to jump in. So this dialogue is so helpful along those lines. If you are so angry, maybe you should run for office to channel that anger. And if you're if you're a working class and you're so mad, you should spend all your time and money instead of surviving. Like, this is such a PMC thing. When people respond this way, what are you doing? What do you mean what I'm doing? I'm surviving capitalism. That's what I'm doing.
That is definitely a PMC. That is definitely David Sirota's friend that is pissed off at these. There's no way they're not a professional managerial person. No way. That's what all of them do. They all say, you got criticism, AOC. Why don't you do something? Why don't you run for office? What is your credentials? That's the same thing. Your criticism is invalid because you're not powerful enough.
You're mad at the Uvalde Police Department for not protecting them? Well, where's your gun and badge? Why aren't you doing this?
There is no way.
I'm not a police officer. What are you talking about?
All I'm saying is, I would say this for sure, because obviously we don't know that person. I would say 100% without doubt in mind, there is no way that person makes less than $30,000 a year. No way. I'll say that definitively. All right, we go.
Okay, so let's continue with a couple of more comments. What about AOC supporting the military industrial complex?
Yes.
I think that should have been a question.
Yep. Go ahead, CJ. But yeah, even Schroeder's audience, like, you're not gonna dive into that. You're gonna mention it in passing in a question that is later on top of another question, and then you don't bring it up, and then you just let it go. Okay. What a great follow-up, David.
Yeah, this one doesn't talk about the interview, so I'll skip to this next one.
The only thing AOC got done was wear a tax the red dress. This is Sirota. People wrote this 19 hours ago, way before anyone on RBN mentioned. This is not RBN Brigade. Way before any of us, and we're not that powerful, guys. By the way, we're not even powerful enough to do that. But this is way before our influence. Roasting AOC for the dress.
So AOC, thank you for showing up on an independent media. Encourage your colleagues to do the same.
That's my funny.
David Sirota is not independent media.
Now bless that person's heart. I do not think that person is a bad person, or bless that person's heart, because they see this one interview and they're like, yeah, AOC finally on independent media. It kind of weird. And this person, they probably thought like, man, it's weird. I don't see AOC talk to these people. So this person's so excited to see AOC talk to David. And they know that Ilhan, Jamal Bowman, and the rest of the squad is dodging independent media. Because if you go to that comment, she said, implore your colleagues to do the same. Everyone knows these people are cowards. They think Jake Uger is too tough of an interviewer. They think Kyle Kalinske is too hard of an interviewer.
What?
And everyone knows it, that they are cowards. And that's what this person who's obviously friendly to AOC, even they know it. Like, hey, can you bring your friends along to talk to David too? Anyway, let's continue. I think we're about done. I
mean, we'll read this. I can read this last one, or maybe a couple more if you guys want me to.
Oh, that's a good one to end on.
Yeah. I once was hopeful about AOC, but now I'm about as impressed with her as Nancy Pelosi. Thanks for confirming that with this useless interview. The press are supposed to be adversarial to power. So this person points out the same thing, like, no pushback, nothing like that in this interview. But what did any of you see any good comments, any good questions about this? It was a long segment, so I'm curious to know what some of our comrades are saying. Any good ones you can throw up there in the final seconds of this. I think this was probably by far the longest segment that I've ever
because it was AOC
been involved.
AOC is the top level. I mean, think about it, we do a lot of videos rebuking the boutique managerial class, the NATO left. Who's the queen of the NATO left?
Yeah.
Who's the person they all look up to? AOC.
The Queen Bee.
So it is fitting, CJ, that AOC finally goes on independent media, and that's the breakdown that is the longest because we couldn't get through a sentence of her. Like she's as bad as any Morning Joe guest we ever broke down. Everything she said was a half truth, a gaslight, a lie by omission, a propaganda tactic. Everything she said is well rehearsed, well trained. You said it earlier before. That CI list I post all the time, she got all that shit memorized.
Yeah.
And to perfection. Guys, she is the LeBron James of the professional managerial class. She is the Lionel Messi of the professional managerial class. She mastered all this shit, and they all aspire to be AOC. So it's fitting, CJ, that will be our longest segment because it's her. She's the one, right? Anyway, that's my final thought. I think this is good. I'm pretty much done, but anything else you guys?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like we have some other stories, like the Saudi Yemen deal and the leaked documents exposed. We're probably gonna have to push that to tomorrow or Thursday. Next time we do a Nick and CJ show, we do have to cover the John Kirby and the leaked documents. Like this shit is ridiculous, and they're telling John Kirby's like, you guys shouldn't be reporting this. He's telling news organizations. You should not be reporting on these leaked documents and what these leaked documents. I'm finding out new stuff every day. Like people are tweeting, like, "Wow, I found this in the leaked documents." Go ahead. Huh?
I might talk to you, CJ, later, but if you're free, you might join me for Nigga Night. I think me and Zoe may break that down, but we talk, we see.
Okay.
But anyway, we figure it out because we definitely got to cover that.
I know JB had 2 streams together. He looked tired. He had
JB's been hanging in with us. He hanging in with us all the time.
What are your final words for the stream? What can people find you? What's going on with you as we close out
here? So just to let you guys know, the chapter 10 reading of Assata Shakur's autobiography is up on my channel. So if you guys want to go there, I will be getting into Dr. Devon Price's Laziness Does Not Exist. I'll be finishing that up on chapter 1. I really got to finish that up as well. And also, I will be doing a stream on Thursday. I'm going to be talking, about customer service and capitalism. So I'll be talking about that. So that's going to be an interesting. That's going to be interesting. And then tune in for Sabby and JB on Thursday. So yeah, if you guys would like to, you guys can always go to my channel and you guys can subscribe if you want to. And yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, make sure you guys subscribe to the JB Font. Sabby going live as well tonight. You're really missing the entire Arbian experience if you're not subscribed to A1's channel. As for me, Nick and Night tomorrow. Zoya is love. Zoya is life. Definitely be joining me. I got a nice crew of people that join me at Nick and Night. As JB said earlier, JB and Sabby show on Thursday. The point being, we always got great content every day for you guys. So please like, share, subscribe, share to a friend if you guys are enjoying, and make sure you check if you subscribed. That's the important point because that's the part that's killing us because we grow in subscribers and people get unsubscribed all the time. So make sure you check that. So that's all I have. I'm gonna peace out. I'll pass it to you, CJ, to close this out. I'll see you guys.
Yeah, I'll just play a little closeout video to talk about the leaked documents, but we will cover this in another segment and stream. But we'll close out with this video that briefly talks about the leaked documents, highly classified documents is the description they use here. So everybody.
Meanwhile, the United States is.
Hang on a second, guys. Let's make sure we don't have any super chats. Yeah, I forgot about that. I don't know if we read this one earlier also, but I can read it again just in case. We would all be better off if we were trained in tactics of cluster B, disordered abusers, gaslighting, word salad, blame shifting, moving the goalposts. They only have a few tricks. That doesn't sound familiar. I don't think we read that earlier. And then I'll read this one just in case. AOC gives JB's answer in the bonus segment. I think we read that one. And then don't forget to join the JB channel. That's another thing we got started here. I don't see any tips on Rockfin unless you saw something different, JB. I don't see any tips here. So, and I think that's all the super chats. So everybody, thank you. We're gonna end with this video to take us out. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Scrambling to find the source of the leak of highly classified documents. We've been telling you about this. The documents have revealed sensitive details about America's allies and Ukraine's vulnerabilities as the war with Russia goes on. Is America eavesdropping on key allies? And could this lead to a huge crisis for America's geopolitical relations? Let's break it down for you. The Pentagon documents, which were leaked online, contain exclusive information which can only be obtained if one keeps a close eye on their friends, almost like spying on your neighbors. In fact, the documents contain data on Ukraine, South Korea, Israel, some European countries as well. What exactly is this controversial data all about? Let me start off with Ukraine. A document marked secret describes how Ukraine's air defense systems are bound to run out by May if the country continues to flush out the stockpiles at the current rate. And this data leak, by the way, comes as the US and Ukraine have started developing a mutual trusting relationship over intelligence sharing. Ukraine is now on its toes, as reports say that Kiev has already altered some of its military plans because of this leak. And America also is in a difficult position with its foe, Russia. Some documents showing that America penetrated the Russian Ministry of Defense and the Wagner Group. This was done through intercepted communication. The US, in fact, has also targeted Israel, as the documents claim that Israel's Mossad intelligence agency, which is the national intelligence agency, lighted protests against the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's controversial judicial reforms. And Netanyahu lashed back, saying that the information has no foundation whatsoever. South Korea, in fact, has also been mentioned in those documents. Its officials have been accused of planning to supply weapons to Ukraine after coming under America's pressure. This can be highly controversial, as it is against Seoul's policy to export weapons to countries in conflict. The US has imposed the same intention of weapon supply on Israel and European countries. The document saying that the countries will consider providing lethal aid due to increased US pressure or because of a degradation in their relationship with Russia. And how exactly are the countries reacting to this big leak? America's allies are doing damage assessment. They are struggling to determine whether their own sources or methods have been compromised. Countries are alarmed, looking at a document titled Russia-Ukraine Battle for the Donbass Region, likely heading for a stalemate throughout 2023. The document assesses the endurance of Ukraine's operations. Some countries pointed out that America's assessment of Ukraine does not help the war. But the question that arises is all the leaked information even true? Ukraine believes that the documents are inauthentic and have nothing to do with Ukraine's actual plans. In fact, Kiev says that the data is just a large amount of fictitious information spread by Russia. And when it comes to hard facts, the documents contain errors regarding the war in Ukraine, especially the battlefield casualty estimates, which seem to minimize the Russian losses. And how exactly is the US handling this controversial situation? America's officials saying that they have spoken with allies and informed the congressional committees about the leak. The Department of Defense is still reviewing the validity of the photograph documents, which are currently spreading across social media platforms. You heard that right.